Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto x Fem Kyubi Emperor. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. The continent of the elemental countries is larger than most people realized, as it was once a much larger base of land than the maps today would show, and the part that was not shown was in a whole different league in every way. You see, all of the elemental countries are on eastern side of the continent as a whole, and that just past Earth country to the west. Was a massive wall with an even more massive territory. This wall that held back the violence of the West, its people, weaponry, and power that made anything in the East look pale in comparison. No one from the cages of the shinobi village to the very daimyos ruling over their domains. Even Uchiha Madara himself dared not go over to the West, and draw the attention of even one of the war-hardened factions there. Beyond this massive wall, a wall that was forged during the time of the Sage of Six Paths by the sage himself, were warlords, rogue samurai, shinobi clans, assassins, and even demons that all fought to protect their own individual territories from rivals. It had been the reason the Sage of Six Paths had made the wall in the first place, as he knew that eventually the East would be consumed by the powers of the West without the wall. And years later the Uzumaki clan in Whirlpool was commissioned by all of the many feudal lords in the East to use their mastery in the sealing arts to cover the wall with seals to prevent its deterioration. Before his death, the Sage of Six Paths had made it known that even if the powerful beings in the West divided, they could easily spill their conflict into the East, and wiping out half of elemental countries before a plan to counter them could even be thought up. Of course, memories of such warnings fade away through the passage of time. Arrogance clouds the judgment of those in charge, and the leaders in the East become consumed in the ways of stupidity in the belief they are invincible. Along with the fading of warnings is the evolution of the world itself, shaking it to the very foundation, and a single incident that would bring about the very catalyst for such evolution to happen. And that single incident came on a day when Uchiha Sasuke defected from Konaha to join Orochimaru, but failed to accomplish his goal thanks to one Uzumaki Naruto, and was brought back to Konaha. The two had fought each other in a brutal battle in a fight to the end, as Naruto was on a mission to bring Sasuke back to the leaf, and the Uchiha's own was to slay his pursuer for greater power. Naruto had suffered 2 chidoris to his chest, but endured the lethality of the jutsu, and the pure agony that came along with the rest of his injuries from the battle to return Sasuke to Konaha. The blonde Uzumaki had hoped his actions would prove to the village he wasn't a monster, that he wasn't the Kyubi, and prove himself worthy of their recognition. He was sadly mistaken. Flashback. Uzumaki Naruto. It is the decision of the Hokage, the councils, and the clan heads of Konoha that you are to be banished immediately from the village, said Tsunade while she scowled at Naruto, who had barely had a chance to even heal from his injuries, and still had bandages covering parts of his body to further prove it. What? Why? Said Naruto, seeing the female Hokage scowl more at him. Why? You injured the Uchiha, you little demon shit. Said Homura, spoke this time while Naruto got angry himself. And what about what he did to me? I took 2 chidoris to the chest. Not 1, but 2 of them, and all with the intent to kill from that prick so he could go to Orochimaru. At least with my attacks, they were to disable, and I carried that asshole back to the village in my condition, said Naruto before Tsunade slammed her fist down onto the table. Silence. I've had it up to here with your annoying voice, brat. I'm tired of your whining and your excuses for what happened in this mission. You have until the rest of the day to get out of the Leaf Village, and if you ever return to Konoha, you will be killed on sight. No excuses, said Tsunade coldly while Naruto looked betrayed at her words while the councils and the clan heads smirked in victory. So that's how it is, huh? I bust my ass for you, these pricks, and the rest of the teams in this village in the hope of getting the respect I deserve. Instead, you blame me for doing my job, and banish me? Fine, go ahead. I hope you all choke on this little victory of yours, and when you do, don't expect me to save your ass, said Naruto before taking off his shinobi headband and chucking it at Tsunade with it barely missing her head, and smashing into the Yondaime's picture behind her before they both fell to the floor with the glass on the picture shattering. You demon brat. Arrest him, said Kaharu before being forced back into her chair by a wave of killer intent. Just try it, I dare you. Before I get arrested, I promise every single shinobi sent after me will be maimed and scarred for life, said Naruto before walking towards the door. Naruto. One last thing. Hand me back my necklace, said Tsunade, seeing Naruto stop at the door and glaring at her. This isn't yours anymore, Hokage-sama. As I recall, this was lost to you in a fair bet, and it will be a cold day in hell before this become yours again, said Naruto before walking out of the office with Tsunade narrowing her eyes at him while he left. End flashback. Naruto made it back to his apartment without hassle. Probably because the boy had used the more discreet alleys, stayed in the shadows, and avoided every person in Konaha altogether. Of course, his apartment had been trashed by the looks of things, which wasn't really new in his mind, as it happened from time to time, and moved to the hidden panel underneath his destroyed bed to remove his few valuables the villagers couldn't take from him. Some spare clothing that wasn't orange, knowing it wasn't healthy to wear it at this point, and Hinata's spare medical cream he hadn't used. Applying some of the medical cream to his body, Naruto had taken away the pain of his more annoying injuries. The Kyubi had yet to handle himself. Bagging everything, the Uzumaki turned to walk out of the apartment, and out of Konoha for good. The Jinchuriki was not even out the door when Naruto bumped into the one person even he didn't expect to see before leaving. Hyuga Hinata. Is it true? Said Hinata while staring into Naruto's eyes. I hopes it wasn't. Yeah, I beat the crap out of the Uchiha. Let it all out. Insult me. Slug me. Get it over with, but hurry up, and be done with it, said Naruto before seeing Hinata begin to cry, then surprisingly run up, and hug him while sobbing into his chest. I don't care about the Uchiha. I care about you. Is it true that you're being banished from the Leaf? Forever? Under the pain of death upon returning? Said Hinata while she once again looked into Naruto's eyes and saw how shocked he was that someone actually cared about him instead of Sasuke. Yeah, it's true. I've got until the end of today to leave before they send out their shinobi to kill me. Though I suspect they'll do it before then out of spite for me. For what I am, said Naruto before shutting up, and Hinata knew why. You mean the vessel of Kyubi? Said Hinata while Naruto stiffened and then looked her dead in the eyes with an intense seriousness that made the Hyuga girl shiver. Who told you that? Said Naruto, knowing the law while never really enforced could be used against her for the kind nature Hinata was known for. Hiyashi would probably perform the execution himself. I've always known Naruto-kun. My father told me at a very young age in the hopes of removing my feelings for you. I admit after hearing you were the Kyubi, Jinchuriki was scared at first because he told me stories of the Kyubi being a ruthless demon, but my mother took me away to talk in private, and called my father an idiot. She said you weren't the demon. Just the container. She said a Jinchuriki is like a cup being filled with water. The cup only holds water, but isn't water itself. So, I watched you for a while, and wished to see who you really were, said Hinata while smiling slightly at him with Naruto being shocked at her words. And, said Naruto seeing Hinata smile more gently, hugged him this time. You are just the cup that holds the water that is Kyubi. You have done so much and been given so little in return for everything you've done for this village. I just wish I had told you sooner how I felt about you. How much I care. How much I wanted to be by your side to help you endure everything. And how much I love you, said Hinata while Naruto slowly wrapped his arms, and for the first time in his life, the young Uzumaki felt joy fill his soul. I wish I had known sooner too. It wasn't your fault, Hinata-chan. I've been too stupid and blind to notice your feelings, and for that I'm sorry. Do you forgive me? Said Naruto with the Hyuga nodding her head while feeling his whiskered face rub against hers, and loved it. Only if you forgive me, said Hinata, and then kissed him on the lips, knowing it would probably be for the first and last time. I can do that, though you better get out of here before someone else less friendly arrives to find you here, said Naruto seeing the Hyuga girl nod. Be safe wherever you go, Naruto-kun, and know that no matter what happens, my heart will always belong to you, said Hinata before she quietly left the room. Better to love and lost than never love at all, said Kyubi at last within Naruto's mind. I was wondering when you'd talk to me again, furball. So what do you want? Come to gloat at being weak? Come to gloat at how I didn't finish off my enemy like you would have in my place, thought Naruto while physically moving to get out of the village before anyone else knew he was gone. No, kid. I am here to talk about your future. Our future, said Kyubi seeing the boy was so shocked that he physically stopped in the deserted alley. What about it? Considering how things are right now, mostly because of you I might add. I have no future, thought Naruto with the Kyubi sighing, I know, kid. At first, I hated you like I did everyone else, but then I saw your heart, and your soul for what it truly was before I realized my foolishness. I didn't want to be in a vessel, who used my power, and called it his own. You are nothing like those fools in Konaha and only used my power for a cause greater than yourself. I never had access to my previous vessels like I did you, but I knew enough that they never called on my power, and I respected them for that fact. When you first demanded my power in order to save yourself from that ravine, I was impressed by your boldness, and yet disgusted by the order given. It wasn't until later when you used my powers. Only as a last resort against your opponents did I realize you weren't going to abuse what was given, and it was at that point. I knew you were worthy, said Kyubi while sensing Naruto was once again surprised. Wow, I guess I should be honored by this, Kyubi, but what does this have to do with our future? And living without a home? Thought Naruto with the Kyubi smirking. There is always a home, kid. We just have to find it first. Given the nature of things as they are today, it's clear such a place is not on this side of the world, and therefore, we must look on other side, said Kyubi drawing more confusion from Naruto. What do you mean? Thought Naruto while Kyubi shook his head. I'll tell you another time, kid. Right now, we must move, and move silently before the leaf decides to move ahead of schedule in letting you leave, said Kyubi with Naruto nodding in agreement and moved to get out of the village before stopping again to see the other rookies talking to each other with Guy's team. I knew it? Naruto is the Kyubi. I knew there was something off about him, and this is the proof in the pudding, said Kiba with the others nodding in agreement. To think I believed him in defying fate. Now I feel like a fool for believing the Kyubi and his trickery, said Neji scowling with anger. If I see him, he's going to be used for target practice, and I'm going to make him suffer, said Tenten with her scroll filled with weapons at the ready. Such an unyouthful creature the Kyubi was back then and now to deceive us all for so long. It will bring me great honor to defeat him in battle, said Lee being his usual self. I knew that Baka was unnatural. Now I see he's really the Kyubi. The next time I see him, I'm going to punch his tiny brain out of his skull, and rip out his guts for what he did to Sasuke-kun, said Sakura with Ino agreeing to help. The Hokage says he's been officially banished from Konoha. We just have to be patient in the hopes the demon is dumb enough to return or hide out in a nearby country so we can have a shot at him, said Shikamaru while seeing the others nod in agreement. You sicken me, Shikamaru. All of you do, said Tamari appearing behind Shikamaru and glaring daggers at them all. What are you talking about? Said Shikamaru before being punched harshly in the face by Tamari and soon saw her siblings flanking her position. You heard me, you Baka. For someone with a genius brain, you sure are stupid, and lack the perception to see the truth. My own brother here is like Naruto. My youngest brother Gaara was as bad as they come, caring for nothing, but himself growing up, and yet this very same person you now condemn to be a demon saved this village from annihilation, said Tamari while her siblings glared daggers at them all. It just proves Naruto is a monster if Gaara is just like him, said Sakura before killer intent from Gaara shut her up. Foolish girl. Who was it that saved you from my deathly grip? Who was it that defeated me in combat during the invasion of your village? It was Naruto. For that act alone and for siding with the Uchiha after the fool nearly killed my first real friend. The alliance between our two villages is hereby terminated. Tamari. Kankuro. We are leaving, said Gaara coldly while his eyes glared daggers at them all before the siblings left. Thanks, Gaara. I'll pay you back someday, my friend. I promise, thought Naruto before he took off and managed to get over the village walls. Never to be seen again for many years. As the Emperor of the Western Elemental Empire. The Imperial Palace of the Western Elemental Empire of Kyoto was an impressive sight to behold, for all those with eyes could see its majestic, almost glowing beauty, and even more so when one looked inside to see the decor. Crimson carpeting edged with golden lining filled each floor of the palace. The sides of the floor not covered were showing high-quality wood, and the walls had rows of doors leading to different rooms. Where there wasn't doors, there were paintings on the walls, and each depicting the empire's greatest of heroes. Each of them fought beside the emperor, bled for the man, and liked them. The emperor did too. Each picture was commissioned to show their greatness, to show their loyalty to the man they followed, and help unite the lands ravaged by war. Among these paintings, the Emperor of the West himself. Of course, the portrait itself had never revealed his face, as he wore a golden fox-shaped helmet with face cover, but designed to make sure it didn't impede his line of sight, and wearing crimson black armor. A sword in hand, stained in the blood of his fallen enemy, and the torn flag of the Empire on a pole looking like it was fighting against a heavy wind in the chaos below. Guards could be seen everywhere, watching every area of the palace, shinobi hiding in the shadows to provide additional support for them, and each servant walking without fear through the halls to do their duty. At the moment, the Emperor of the Western Elemental Empire was now in an important meeting with the Grand Council, which was made up of his most trusted advisors, who handled their regions they once fought each other over, and to keep out of the hands of some of the very people in the room. That had been put to an end by the Emperor, as he fought his way through the masses upon his arrival, making a name for himself in what was then known as the divided Western War Zone, and brought others to the table for peace talks when violence would make things worse. As his power base grew, the Emperor's reputation spread throughout the West, as different warlord, and leader of different guilds that did not wish to fight requested an audience with him. Within a span of 3 years, the man had accomplished what no other person had done before, and it was bring peace to the West under his guiding hand. A peace that had lasted for 3 long wonderful years after being made emperor. Warlords, who had once led their armies into battle to fight each other for additional land and power, now served the emperor with undying loyalty. The guilds that once worked in the shadows, now worked to serve the emperor to keep the peace and stability the man himself had bled for during the fighting. "How is everything along the southern border of the empire, Louis Bey? I had heard there was some kind of disturbance there," said the emperor in a muffled voice while wearing his mask, which while normally would be removed in a meeting like this among his most trusted advisors, was not to be, as he had business elsewhere after this, and with people that did not deserve to see his true identity. "Some bandits have been harassing some of regions near the port region. I've sent Pang Tong and a regiment to handle this accordingly," said Louis Bey, as he saw his emperor nod in approval of the decision, and looking over some documents pertaining to the situation. The Shu region was once divided into multiple ones ruled mostly under Wu and Wei, with all 3 sides forming an uneasy balance between each other. However, that all changed when the emperor came, when he was still a warlord by right title, and had his agents observe all sides before choosing which one would be worthy of his support. Out of all the 3 main powers, Shu had the most honorable, and Louis Bey had the support of the people in his region more than the others did. At the Battle of Fan Castle, Louis Bey's sworn brother Guan Yu was trapped on both sides by Wei, and then Wu in a surprising move had sided against Shu in the battle. Guan Yu and his army would have perished in the battle had the emperor not intervened in flanking Wu with his forces long enough for Louis Bey's army to arrive to send Wei retreating. After that, Shu became an allied with the emperor, and together they had defeated Wu before the side sent Zhou Yu to negotiate peace. The emperor handled the negotiations with his chief advisor between Shu and Wu, with both becoming one under Shu's banner while being allied at the time with the warlord that would soon be emperor. Together, they took down Wei, and renamed the entire area the Shu region. "Good. I will not have my people harassed by bandits. Though I am curious as to why you sent Pang Tong. The man is a well-renowned strategist, and to send him seems to be overkill," said the emperor while Louis Bey nodded. "I agree, but the regions being attacked are well known to Pang Tong, and I would prefer to send one of my trusted generals with knowledge of the terrain against the bandits to remove this annoyance," said Louis Bey with the emperor again nodding in agreement. "I agree. You chose wisely, Louis Bey. It shows you care about your people within the Shu region a great deal. Sesshomaru, how are things going in your territory of the empire with the various demons, and half-demons living there?" said the emperor, as the regal demon lord of the West had been a hard man, or rather demon, to win over. The two had fought in battle, fiercely in the final years of violence the West received, and the emperor had barely come out of it alive while Sesshomaru was just weakened. It did not end for the emperor, however, as rival demons of Sesshomaru saw their chance to kill the demon lord in his weakened state. But surprisingly their plan was foiled by the chief advisor of the emperor, and had been ordered to stay on the sidelines watching until that point. When it was over, Sesshomaru himself was surprised at just how the emperor had gained someone so powerful by his side, and through all that did the demon lord of the West join the cause to end the violence. "They are going well. There are no new changes to report in my region," said Sesshomaru calmly while seeing the emperor nod. "Good. General Iroh, How are the new Fire Division troops handling the different kinds of training sessions and drills you set up for them? Said the Emperor to the semi-elderly man smiled at him. They are doing well, my Emperor. The Fire Division troops will be ready for anything that comes our way should the conflict in the east spread here, said Iroh, as he had been put in charge of the training of the troops alongside his younger brother Ozai, and to help in the defense of the wall that separated the two sides. My Emperor, our reports from the spies you ordered to head for the east have reported back that the violence there is escalating drastically, and I fear the threat of being invaded by the arrogant forces there is looming in the shadows of the future, said Zhou Yu, who was a key strategist in the territories to the northeastern region of the empire, and had been put in charge of the fortifications there with several of his well-respected generals. The eastern side of the continent. Such a bane on this world, those fools at the top have become on their side. Only a select few of them are level-headed, but are being threatened by the warmongers, and it doesn't help that they are allies of mine. Prime Minister Zhuge Liang, I seek your counsel on this matter, and your insight into the future. Will the wars in the east spill into our borders? Said the Emperor, seeing the sleeping dragon himself, a former general of Liu Bei, now appointed Prime Minister of the Empire for his years of service to two of the most honorable men he ever met, and served in his life. Slowly, the master strategist rose to his feet, the peacock feather fan in his right hand, and walked over to the large map showing both sides of the continent with the dark line running north to south where the wall stood. The man gazed at it with half-closed eyes, as he ran his weapon of choice over the map, and making a humming noise like he was examining something no one else could see. The winds of change blow heavily around us. Even in these years of peace granted to us by you, my Emperor. War increases in the east while ours has only just ended and peace being achieved here in the west. The wall, forged years ago, and sustained for centuries now, has been the main reason our side has not flooded the region with our own brutality. However, peace will not be forever, and it should not be expected to stay peaceful here in the west. We must always prepare for outside forces, never become arrogant in the belief no one from the east can oppose us, as I along with the rest of us here have all learned how the east is filled with surprises, and yet most of these surprises cannot be expected to always be good, said Zhuge Liang while the others chuckled along with the Emperor. So we should prepare for the flood that is to come from the storm, said the Emperor, who saw Zhuge Liang nod his head. Yes, we must prepare for the worst and hope for the best, said Zhuge Liang before he sat back down while the Emperor closed his eyes in thought. Each of you will return to your respected territories, inform all of your officers, and the troops that their training is to be doubled from the standards currently set. General Iroh, I'm giving direct command of the Dai Li Earth Division defense troops over to you, and the Fire Division troops over to your younger brother Ozai. Sephiroth, I want your own soldier division to be twice as strong since I last saw them several months ago for when I see them next, said the Emperor while seeing the tall man next to Sesshomaru smiles slightly and nod his head. They will meet all the expectations you would have set for yourself, my Emperor, said Sephiroth in a smooth voice. I have no doubt about that. This meeting is now officially over, said the Emperor while the council members rose, bowed, and left the room one at a time to return to their own territories to give out orders. The intelligence report you had me gather just came in, said a figure wearing spiky red hair and appearing from the shadows wearing crimson-red samurai armor. Is this accurate, down to the last detail? Said the Emperor with narrowed eyes, as he took the report, and read each line. I'm afraid so, said the samurai sadly while the Emperor crushed the paper in his hand. Hinata, even her love for me does not go unpunished by those arrogant fools, said the Emperor while shutting his eyes and shook with an intense rage. I'm sorry, kid. It's my fault they hate you. Without me, you'd be living a much different lifestyle, and things would be so much different in the Leaf, said the samurai while the Emperor just chuckled. And be as weak and arrogant as them. No, I'd choose this empire over the Leaf any day at any time. Now that think about it. You haven't called me that name in years, Kyubi, said the Emperor while the demon fox let out another chuckle. I know. Force of habit when comes to you and me. Naruto, said Kyubi while the man behind the mask removed it and the matured face of Uzumaki Naruto was revealed. His hair was still a spiky blonde, the face was the spitting image of the Yondaime, the whisker marks thin, almost non-existent unless seen under a bright light setting, and eyes that were an intense blue that made even the battle-hardened warrior in the West know fear. For 3 years after his banishment, Naruto had made his way to the west, gotten over the wall, and started from scratch in making himself known. The Uzumaki brat, who no one in the west took seriously, had beaten, killed, and in certain cases negotiated his way to unifying the western side of the continent under his banner. "Bring in Ezio and Altair. I need to speak with them," said Naruto before putting on his mask. "Now? You're going to be late for the airship Princess Koyuki provided for transport to her country to have some of your fighters participate the taijutsu tournament there," said Kyubi with a frown. "It will just be a moment. Besides, this is important," said Naruto, seeing Kyubi nod, and left the room to come back later with the two individuals. "You summoned us, my emperor?" said Altair, knowing this was important and was ready to devote the whole of his half of the Assassin's Guild to the emperor's wishes. "Yes, Altair, I have. As you know, the East is spiraling out of control. War is inevitable no matter how you look at it. However, the intensity of such a stupid attempt is the only real thing we have control over at this point, and to weaken the war machine that will threaten the peace we have fought so hard to achieve," said Naruto, with both Grand Masters of the Assassin's Guild nod their heads. Each Grand Master was assigned half the Assassin's Guild, each one bound in a bond of brotherhood sealed in blood before the eyes of the Emperor himself, and each one swore never to turn one side of the guild against the other. They acted as one, yet they worked individually as two, but both reported everything to the Emperor, and neither one dared to keep anything from the man. "You wish to use the Brotherhood against the war machine of the East," said Ezio, seeing Naruto nod his head. "Yes. I've had agents from the Thieves Guild and head mistresses running the brothels in the East to keep tabs on them. The major warmongers are Iwa with the backing of the Earth Daimyo, Kumo with the back of the Lightning Daimyo, and finally Orochimaru of the Sannin. Each one has been fighting other places, territories, and raising all kinds of hell in the East. Not to mention the Akatsuki are also going around trying to find other Jinchuriki for their own plans with no success," said Naruto, with both men frowning at him. "With all due respect, my emperor, but aren't most of the Jinchuriki, aside from Sabaku no Gaara and Killer Bee of Kumo, here in the Empire?" said Altair, seeing Naruto nod again. "That they are. The only one unaccounted for is the former Mizukage of the Mist Yagura, who was slain by the rebels, and his demon was taken by the Akatsuki," said Naruto, as he had saved most of his fellow Jinchuriki, and even freed them of their demons. Both human and demon from each one were currently living deep within Sesshomaru's territory, living their lives happily while still training to get stronger per the Demon Lord's request, since he didn't want weak people in his region of the Empire. Naruto agreed. After the Akatsuki attacked Suna for Gaara's demon, it had been Naruto's wish to see them thwarted, and did so by sending shinobi from the Hayabusa shinobi village to remove the pair of Akatsuki members from the equation. Ryu Hayabusa led his squad of dragon shinobi to Suna, revealing the imperial seal to Gaara's siblings, and explained they came to protect the case cage under the command of the Emperor himself. That Gaara was one of the few friends the Emperor still had in the East, and fulfilling the personal promise of paying the case cage back for sticking up for him when it mattered most 3 years ago in Konaha. By that point, Gaara understood just who the Emperor was, and requested to Ryu that he inform the new ruler of the Empire that Suna would like to have an alliance with him. Naruto had embraced the alliance with Suna without any hesitation, and further secured Gaara's protection against the Akatsuki by making a secret visit to Suna to alter the man's seal to prevent forceful extraction of the Biju. Normally, Naruto would have tried to take Shukaku out of Gaara like Kyubi had, but the insanity was sadly irreversible after so long, and Gaara was not about to risk the lives of people in his village. In the event of Gaara's life ending, whether be natural or other causes, a special seal was put on him to inform the Empire of such a thing before giving the siblings another one to hold onto, so Shukaku could be resealed away into jar like he had been before in a teakettle. By that point, an Imperial shinobi would arrive, take Shukaku in his newly sealed home to the Empire to be kept someplace under guard to ensure the insane raccoon could do no further harm to anyone. How will we set up our assassin guild bases within the shinobi villages? Or even the capital of the countries with the assigned targets? Said Ezio, knowing the assassin guild bases required discreet and slow movements. They are already set up. You see, I had them set up when both of your predecessors were still alive, and ready to pass the torch, said Naruto, shocking the two. Why weren't we told about this beforehand? Said Altair, seeing Naruto shrug. Because at that the time, I was hoping this contingency against the East wouldn't be put into motion, and I needed there to be experienced members of the Brotherhood that know the lay of the land in each area. You two have both been to the East before, but never on an assassination mission, and never so high level. Each of you will be assassinating a Kage or a daimyo of the assigned country. I am sending you two and several of your brothers to help in the removal of those that can protect them, said Naruto, seeing the two nod in agreement. What about Orochimaru of the Sannin? With his allies gone, he can easily pick up the pieces, and become an even greater threat, said Ezio, seeing Naruto nod. I know. He will be dealt with in another manner. While Orochimaru is not a threat to the West like his ego would wish him to be, the man is not to be underestimated, and given his own affinity for acting like a snake, it only reinforces the point that an assassin will not be used against him. This is in no way an offense aimed at the guild, but assassins are not trained to fight someone like him, and I won't have your brothers be sent to their death before being dissected like lab rats for the man's sick experiments, said Naruto, with the two grandmasters nodding in agreement. We accept your reasoning and obey your command, my emperor, said Altair, bowing, and Ezio doing the same. Your words are wise and true, said Ezio before the two left the room to carry out their orders. Naruto, we can't wait any longer, said Kyubi, seeing Naruto nod and stand from his seat in the room. Is all the registration of our fighters gone through the proper channels to compete in the tournament in Spring Country? Said Naruto, as he walked with Kyubi, and the demon fox nodded before putting on a fang mask, and kept his own whiskers from being seen by those in the East. Yes, though I must warn you, Naruto, to keep your emotions in check when seeing the Leaf Shinobi participating in the tournament, said Kyubi, seeing Naruto nod. I shall. The report you gave me regarding daughter tells me she will be there too. This will be the only chance I get to set her free before, said Naruto, while Kyubi put a comforting hand on the blonde's shoulder. Before her marriage to Inuzuka Kiba, said Kyubi, wanting to puke when saying those three words in a single sentence. Marriage? Huh, it's a joke. She'll be his slave and all, but name it that wedding, and no one in the village gives a damn. Not her so-called family, friends, even her own former sensei just pats Hinata on the head while smiling, saying, it's going to be all right, Hinata, when everyone knows deep down in the depths of their souls it is not all right, said Naruto, as he kept walking, and getting angrier with each passing second. I've already spoken to your bodyguards. They are the best at what they do, said Kyubi, as he saw Naruto nod, and knew his former vessel would have his aching heart finally be soothed. It had suffered for too long already. Konaha at the moment. Tsunade sighed heavily. Her workload of papers assigning missions from D to A-ranked missions had not dwindled in the slightest since taking office as the Leaf's Hokage, and the war with two different shinobi villages along with Orochimaru didn't help either. To make matter worse, Suna had ended their alliance with Konaha, Wave Country had torn up their trading contract, followed by Spring Country telling the Fire Daimyo any deals she made with him were hereby terminated. In fact, every place Naruto ever went to for a mission, and made an impression to the people in charge there, had cut off all ties with the Leaf. It caused a horrible backlash, which Konaha had not recovered from since, and the Fire Daimyo had been less than pleased with them. The feudal lord had brought an army with him, stormed into the Hokage Tower, into a meeting ironically regarding Konoha's future, and looked ready to order the execution of every single person in the room. Flashback 4 months after Naruto's banishment. The door to the room shattered, splintered into pieces after being kicked by two samurai with the Fire Daimyo's symbol on their shoulder armor. The Hokage, the councils, and the clan heads saw the room start to fill up with samurai before the Fire Daimyo himself entered the room. And he did not look happy. Daimyo-sama, what do we owe the pleasure of your visit? Said civilian councilman in charge of the merchant guild in the market district. Pleasure? For the past few months, I have been feeling everything else, but the feeling of the word you call is pleasure, my esteemed Leaf Councilman, and it has made me oh so very unhappy, said the Fire Daimyo, with his anger showing on his face and on that of his own samurai too. What reason is that, sir? Said Homura, starting to rise, but a glare from the Fire Daimyo immediately made him sit back down, and see the feudal lord begin pacing. Do not insult my intelligence, shinobi councilman Homura. You know damn well what has been causing me discomfort these past few months. First, I hear that Suna had ended its alliance with the Leaf, then I hear from the Wind Daimyo, who is a good dear friend of mine, that he has expressed his full support of the Cage's decision, and has banned Leaf Shinobi from entering his country. Of course, little did I know, that was just the start of my displeasure, and would certainly no be the last. A week later, Spring Country has sent a message from the Spring Daimyo herself to my office, informing me she's cutting off all form of trade with my country, have asked Wave Country to do the same, and do you know what happened in less than a week later in my office? I get yet another message from the Wave Daimyo, and according to him, the people of Wave have agreed to do the same. Now, at first glance of this happening in a slow, painfully, and unexpectedly, it seems to be from something I may have done. So, for the next few weeks, I'm looking back on everything I have done recently that could be the cause of this displeasure, and find that I have done nothing wrong. So I decide to rethink what the problem is by looking at the various places that have expressed their scorn for my country, and one thing popped up. Do you know what that one thing was? Or rather, who that one person was? Said the Fire Daimyo before taking out his fan and waving it at his face. Perhaps you could enlighten us, Daimyo-sama, said Danzo, though he already knew the answer. I'm afraid Buddha himself could enlighten anyone in this room even if the light from the sun was at his command. Still, perhaps the name of the individual, who has been the key focal point of these different places, and their discomfort on a certain action you took a few months ago. I believe you are all well acquainted with a former Leaf Shinobi by the name of Uzumaki Naruto, said Fire Daimyo, and as expected the people in the room yelled out like children. That demon, I knew he was involved in this, said a civilian councilman. We should send out Anbu or Jiraiya to remove that pest from this world once and for all, said Kaharu to the Hokage while completely ignoring the Fire Daimyo at this point. Enough, yelled the Fire Daimyo, with his yell actually shaking the room and his face looking red with anger. Daimyo-sama, said Tsunade, as she saw the man was glaring at her, and knew things were really bad. You think I came here, with my army in tow, and say without fear of reprisal from my neighbors that I support your decision to banish Uzumaki Naruto? Fools, I am here to inform you that I oppose your decision, said the Fire Daimyo, which made the officials of Konaha looking at him in shock, and clearly did not expect this. You're not, said Tsunade while the Fire Daimyo's glare increased. No. In fact, I've come alter your ruling on his banishment, and at least appease some of my former allies to the point where they will not consider being my future enemies, said the Fire Daimyo while glaring at the entire room. What change are you making? Said Tsunade, seeing the man turn his attention directly to her. For one, Uzumaki Naruto is not going to be harmed by any Leaf Shinobi in this village should he ever step foot in my country, or is spotted by any Leaf Shinobi for that matter. 2. The order to have him executed should he ever step foot in the village for whatever reason is hereby nullified, and will continue to be until I say otherwise. For those of you who don't understand what that last part means, I'll explain it to you in a way everyone here can understand and comprehend with their pea-sized brains. If one Uzumaki Naruto comes into this village, into this tower, into this room, and kicks every single one of you right between the legs regardless of your gender, you have to take it with a smile on your faces. No excuses, said the Fire Daimyo, seeing the Hokage, the councils, and all the clan heads go pale in the face. You can't be serious, Daimyo-sama? The boy is the Kyubi reincarnated. He harmed the Uchiha. He had to be banished and still has to be punished, said Homura in protest to the feudal lord himself. Enough. I can't stand the sight nor wish to hear any more from this old crone or any of his supporters. Though what I can't stand more of than anything else is the sight of the current Hokage, who betrayed her own godson, and all for doing his assigned mission. A dangerous mission he was recruited for by your appointed squad leader, and completed it down to the letter by bringing back the rogue Uchiha, said the Fire Daimyo while seeing the woman not looking him entirely in the eyes. He hurt the Uchiha badly. The poor boy was influenced by the curse seal and yet the demon nearly killed him, said Kaharu, but any further protest in her mouth died from another glare from the Fire Daimyo, and stayed quiet. Funny you should mention that. I have it on good authority from an anonymous source that the injuries Uzumaki Naruto received were far worse than the Uchiha's own. As for the curse seal, why didn't Jiraiya of the Sannin cut it off entirely from the Uchiha in the first place, or remove the boy from the shinobi program until a solution to the matter was found? Why allow it to thrive and grow? Said the Fire Daimyo, seeing no one willing to answer him. Danzo and Tsunade were wondering who the anonymous source was. It has to be someone with access to his medical records. Not many people on that list, but who would lend a sympathetic ear to Naruto and usurp me to tell the Fire Daimyo about both boys' injuries? Thought Tsunade, seeing the woman sigh in frustration. Since no one here can give me an honest answer, much less an honest one, I am forced to yet again appease my neighbors and prevent my country from being invaded due to your stupidity. I understand Uchiha Sasuke is still recovering from his injuries, said the Fire Daimyo, seeing Tsunade nod. Yes, he's going to be out of action for at least a few more months before training for him can begin again, said Tsunade, with the Fire Daimyo frowning. Only few months. Pity. I was hoping he'd out of it a little while longer. Though given how this village gives him the royal treatment, as if he was me, or one of my children, I imagine you are personally overseeing his road to recovery. Uchiha Sasuke will not be ready for training after a few months, said the Fire Daimyo, seeing Tsunade frown. Daimyo-sama, said Tsunade while seeing the anger in the man swell further. Uchiha Sasuke won't be training for the next 3 years. That means no lessons in the way of taijutsu. No lessons in chakra control. Teaching him jutsus and anything else that is shinobi related. If there is so much a way for a shinobi to kill someone with just the tip of his fingernail, it will not be taught to the Uchiha, and if I find that is the case, the boy will be executed publicly before everyone in the village, with everyone in the room soon following, said the Fire Daimyo before leaving the room. He can't do this, said Danzo furiously. He can and will, Danzo, said Tsunade before Jiraiya made his usual appearance via the window. Is this a bad time? Said Jiraiya, with Tsunade scowling. You could say that. Why are you here? Said Tsunade, as she didn't have time for his shit, whether it was perverted, or otherwise, in whatever it is he does in life. To bring more bad news, I'm afraid. I was aware of the Fire Daimyo's decrees before he came here and decided to track down Naruto in order to bring him back home here, said Jiraiya while having a look on his face that told them it didn't go according to plan. Seeing as how the demon brat's not with you, I take it the mission was a failure, and he managed to escape, said Sume, as she saw Jiraiya grimace and run his hand through his hair. You could say that. I found out he went west. Towards Iwa, said Jiraiya, with Homura scoffing at this news while Tsunade's eyes widened. Did he go directly to Iwa? Said Tsunade while Jiraiya shook his head no. Thank Kami, I can say the answer is no to that question. But what he did so was either very foolish or suicidal in my mind, said Jiraiya, seeing confusion on the faces of those around him. What did the Kyubi Jinchuriki do? Said Danzo, knowing that he would send his root forces to find the boy. Naruto. He went over the wall, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade begin to panic. You mean the wall that leads to the west? Said Hiyashi, knowing why that place was off limits for a reason. The very same. Naruto summoned Gamabunta and told him everything. It's why I wasn't here sooner before the Fire Daimyo to give you the heads up. Gamabunta has declared the people of the Leaf unfit to be protected by the Toads. He's calling for every summons in Konaha to break their contracts with us. He already did it with me, said Jiraiya, seeing the shock on their faces. They wouldn't. Who will summon them if not us? Said a civilian councilman, seeing the Sannin shrug. I don't know. Though in their mind, anyone not tied to Konaha is probably better than us right now at this point, and if anyone from the Leaf tries. Gamabunta promises there to be some major retaliation, said Jiraiya while Tsunade looked grim. Jiraiya, you are going to head over to the west, find Uzumaki Naruto while there, and upon doing so will bring him back home, said Tsunade, knowing the only way to make things partially better for the Leaf is if the brat was back in Konaha. After everything that's happened, the kid's not exactly going to be jumping with joy at the news of being allowed to return only because it's only to help the Leaf. The younger generation will be out for blood should Naruto come back here, and we both know that was your fault to begin with by rescinding the Sandame's law, said Jiraiya, with the female Hokage growling. I don't care how you do it, Jiraiya, but one way or another I want that brat in my office to become a shinobi again. Even if it means we have to erase all his past memories and starting from scratch, said Tsunade, knowing that was always a possibility at this point in time. Me? Go over to the west? Tsunade, you don't seem to understand something about that side of the continent, and what you fail to understand is the west is not a very friendly place for anyone on this side. Period. I may be a Sanin, but there are beings over there that will crush me with a flick of their wrist. And I have no contacts over there to help me even find a strand of hair from his head, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade, and the others looked down in defeat because they knew it was true. For all their strength and reputation built here in the East, it was the West that had the real muscle. Fine, focus on the Uchiha for now by getting that damn curse seal off his body. The last thing I need is for Orochimaru to make a second attempt and using that thing to make it possible, said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya nod. Will do, Heim, said Jiraiya, as he would have to research his former teammate's personal handiwork, and see just how much of the damn thing was really influencing Sasuke. End flashback. Our contestants along with their former senseis are on their way via boat to Spring Country, said Jiraiya, having sent Lee, Neji, Sasuke, Kiba, and Hinata, though the poor girl wasn't competing per orders of her father. She was there to support her future husband and get married upon their return home. Good. The prize money will help keep Konaha funded, said Tsunade, knowing there were budget cuts being made by the Fire Daimyo and missions had been a state of an unstable flux as of late to get a stable income that way. I heard the Konohamaru Corps are going to be nominated for the Chunin exams this year. Why? Said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade glaring holes into him. Because they still support Naruto and the exams are in Suna this year. I figured Gaara would give them a decent enough welcome since they don't hate the damn brat for being a Jinchuriki, said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya nod his head, knowing that was a good enough move as any she could make right now. That, and you want their sensei Asuma to report on the rumors of Suna having some kind of connection to the West. Just like this tournament you signed our shinobi up for was meant to see if Spring has also acquired ties to the West, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade smirk a bit. Am I that see-through? Said Tsunade while Jiraiya smirked back. No, not really. That could change if you wore a very wet white shirt, said Jiraiya with a perverted grin before being sent through a wall via Tsunade's fist to his face. Ero Baka, said Tsunade, knowing what he was implying. Underground Route HQ. Is this accurate? Said Danzo, looking at his Anbu captain with a single narrowed eye. Yes, Danzo-sama. The Emperor of the West is traveling via airship to the east to see his own fighters competing in the tournament provided by the Spring Daimyo herself, said the Root Anbu captain while sensing the man's displeasure. This Emperor believes himself untouchable. He's a threat to me and Konaha, said Danzo while wishing he could get a picture of the man, but knew that wasn't possible until now, and even then it was rumored the Emperor wore a masked helmet to keep his identity a secret. Plus, there was no way of telling if the man on the airship now was the actual Emperor, or some fanatical stand-in prepared to die for the ruler of the West. Danzo didn't want to risk the failure of another assassination attempt like he did several years ago shortly after word reached him of the regions of the West beyond the wall had become one under a mysterious emperor. Danzo had wanted that place to stay divided, as he knew that while alone they were stronger than most of the East, but merged together into a greater whole would make them a threat to the East, and to his plans for ruling Konaha as the Hokage. His agents were sent back in pieces, broken down to fit in square boxes in the middle of the night, and found in the morning by the patrols that day in the middle of the village square. Tsunade had inquired to the use of root shinobi being used, but Danzo was able to explain it, as his security force hunting down someone entering his home, and that this foe had skills capable of defeating his private security forces. His pawns on the councils had done their job well in sweeping the issue under the rug, but it made Danzo become forced into being more careful, and to not make the same mistake twice. I sent a squad of some of my personally trained root shinobi. Clearly the ones working for the Emperor had a great deal of skill, thought Danzo, as he knew the Emperor was not interested in war at the time of the attack, which was why the War Hawk got away with just the dead root shinobi, and that their bodies being sent back to the Leaf was a warning to not try it again. Should we try again, Danzo-sama? Perhaps a means of sabotaging the airship itself when the Emperor heads back home, said the Anbu captain before seeing Danzo narrow his eye at him. No, Konoha's shinobi are already participating in the tournament, and even I must admit the prize money would help the Leaf in our economic state. When they return, we will have a description of the Emperor, and hopefully a description of his face to go with the man's identity in the process, said Danzo, knowing there was no point in letting his side do the same work Tsunade's shinobi were going to do before sharing the information in the first place. Spring Country sometime later. "We've arrived, my emperor," said the elderly figure softly with his still dark hair pulled in a tight ponytail, wearing a butler uniform, and dark gloves to match. "Thank you, Walter. How are the others?" said Naruto, seeing his personal butler, servant, and bodyguard aside from Kyubi himself standing at attention barely 5 feet from him. "Ready to fight for you in this tournament, my emperor, and they promise to make sure to make you proud," said Walter, knowing these fighters from the Empire were among the best in taijutsu and chosen for that fact. While some were chosen for another more covert reason. "Good to hear. All I ask is they do their best in this. And to kick the crap out of any leaf shinobi they fight in it," said Naruto with a smirk, which Walter joined him in sharing and nodding in agreement. "They are aware of such things. They will show these young fools a lesson in the way of violence, followed by humility, and by making them know of such things by the way of humility's nearly identical twin brother humiliation," said Walter while sensing his emperor was pleased to hear it. "Let's not keep our host waiting," said Naruto before standing and walking out of the room with Walter following on his right while Kyubi did the same on his left. Spring Country Stadium. The people gathered to see the tournament their daimyo was sponsoring. Rumors of the Western Elemental Empire sending fighters to participate in an event he emperor himself coming too. Everyone knew the emperor was an ally of Spring Country after peace over the wall had been heard, and many feared the great dragon that had awakened in the process of the unity. However, according to the rumors, the Spring daimyo met with the emperor, who had requested an audience with her through unknown channels, and she agreed if only to satisfy her own curiosity. No one knew what was spoken between them or the man's true identity on account of the man keeping his face hidden from everyone. However, the daimyo of Spring Country had a smile on her face by the time it was over, and it was one many had not seen since their long-lost hero had helped free them from the tyrant Dodo. When asked by one of her samurai guards why she was once again smiling, Koyuki merely replied, "Our long-lost hero is no longer lost," and didn't stop smiling for the rest of the day. As the Emperor of the West made his way to the booth where Spring Daimyo Koyuki was waiting for him, the crowd of people that were in the stands near them hushed at the sight of the Emperor and his bodyguards. Each of them walked with a purpose, walked like a veteran of war. Their eyes showed they had seen battle, blood, and death in more ways than one. The Emperor walked the same way, his robes swishing around him in the wind, and his eyes behind the mask showed an incredible intensity that made everyone around them have more than enough healthy space to get by. "Welcome, Emperor of the West. I am honored that you've come all the way here from the Empire to see this tournament," said Spring Daimyo Koyuki, as she took his hand, and shook it with a knowing smile on her face. "The honor is mine. Your country flourishes under your rule. May it continue to do for years to come," said Naruto while smiling behind his mask. "Thank you. Please sit. The tournament is about to begin," said Koyuki, as she sat down with the Emperor, and made a hand motion to inform her subordinate to start everything. "Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to announce by the power invested in me by our beloved the Spring Country Daimyo that the Grand Taijutsu tournament will now begin," yelled the arena announcer with the crowd roaring and cheering. "Do you hear that, you guys? All those cheers. Once I win this tournament, I'm going to get fame, some fortune, and a nice piece of Hyuga tail that is my future wife," said Kiba, as he had been so excited since being informed that his former teammate, Hyuga Hinata, would be his wife, and would have the cage bird seal on her forehead to further ensure her obedience to him without question. "You win, Kiba. You are no match for an Uchiha," said Sasuke arrogantly despite his inner anger at Naruto for beating him 6 years ago and then being deprived of training for the first 3 after the loss. "Says the guy, who was prevented from training for 3 years, and curse seal locked away," said Kiba while the others smirked and Sasuke growled. "Just don't use the excuse of not having your dog for backup when you lose," said Sasuke while Kiba growled back this time. "Such arrogance from weaklings makes me sick," said a voice behind them, and the leaf shinobi turned to see a man in white karate gi pants, shirt ripped along the shoulders, and red headband tied to his forehead. "Who the hell are you?" said Kiba while the figure crossed his arms in front of him. "Name's Ryu. Hoshi Ryu. I am one of the fighters participating in this tournament." "You are fighters from the Leaf, correct?" said Ryu, seeing Kiba puff out his chest and saw the others flexing what muscles they had. "That's right. The best the elemental countries has to offer," said Kiba with Ryu merely smirking slightly. "How sad," said Ryu simply before walking away. "What did you say?" said Sasuke, taking several steps forward. I said, how sad, and I say it. Because you are all weak, said Ryu before he continued to walk away. And what gives you the right to judge us? You're just a nobody wannabe fighter, said Sasuke, which made Ryu stop and look back at them. No, Uchiha Sasuke. It is you along with the rest of your fellow Leaf Shinobi here, who are the wannabe fighters, and when compared to the rest of my fellow warriors from the west. You are the nobodies, said Ryu before he continued walking. Jerk. I'm going to mess him up should we fight each other in this tournament. I bet the fighters from the west are all talk, said Kiba while Neji just stared at Ryu for a second. He's dangerous. There is an aura of some kind buried deep inside of him, thought Neji, as he used his eyes to track the man's movements, and saw him stop in front of others no doubt from the west. Our first contestants will be Inuzuka Kiba from the Leaf and Hoshi Ryu of the Western Empire. Will you two please enter the arena and we can begin the tournament? Yelled the arena announcer with the crowd booing Kiba and cheering on Ryu. What a bunch of ingrate assholes. We helped their daimyo become their daimyo and they boo guys like me, said Kiba walking out with Ryu doing the same. Probably because of your village mistreating our emperor, you stupid fool, thought Ryu, as he was going to look forward to crushing the Inuzuka in the name of the emperor, and remembered his orders to humiliate Leaf Shinobi. Not that Ryu would kill since that went against his own moral code, but given how bad things were in the west, killing did happen, and he had done if only to protect those that were precious to him. It was why he joined the emperor in the first place. The emperor had been uniting the lands, fighting cruel warlords, and talking with the more honorable ones joining him in the unification of the West. Ryu saw that the emperor was a man not unlike himself and thus pledged his loyalty to the man during all of the fighting to use his power to bring about peace to the West. Fighters, the rules are simple. One standing at the end of the match is the winner and advances to the next round. Killing is allowed, but we prefer that you don't, and just knock out your opponent, yelled the announcer so the crowd also knew the rules. Let's get this over with. I want to get back home to marry and plow my future Hyuga for a wife, said Kiba with a smirk on his face. In the stands, Hyuga Hinata shuddered in disgust at Kiba's words, and dreaded the day she returned to Konaha. The trip over hadn't been pleasant either, having practically felt Kiba's leering eyes on her body the whole boat ride over, and made sure to keep him at arm's length whenever near. Flashback. I don't know why you're acting like this, Hinata-chan. We're going to be married soon anyway. We're on a boat, my room isn't that far away, and it wouldn't be difficult to start the inevitable early. So let's have our honeymoon early, said Kiba, as he was leaning on the rail with his back, and staring at Hinata leaning over it with the front while keeping her arms crossed to keep the Inuzuka from seeing her chest despite it being covered by a heavy coat. I'll pass on the offer, Kiba-san, said Hinata in a stiff Hyuga tone almost worthy of her father's praise. Almost. Her father would never praise the woman no matter how perfect Hinata did in something. Your loss. Still, it's going to be fun for me when we're married, and I'm having all those coats of yours destroyed. You're not going hiding that chest from me, said Kiba while failing to keep his grin off his face, knowing this girl was going to be shown like a prize to every guy in the village and to let everyone know Hinata belonged to him. Do not presume to dictate what I can and cannot wearing Kiba-san. I may become your wife, but it will be a loveless marriage, and I will not make things easy for you, said Hinata before being grabbed by Kiba, who was no longer happy, but very angry, and it showed in his eyes. You still have a thing for that demon, don't you? After all this time, your heart still aches for him, and wishes to be married to him, said Kiba, seeing Hinata's resolve not waver under his glare. And what if my heart does belong to Naruto? Said Hinata with Kiba growling. That's going to change the moment we're married. Do you understand me? When we're husband and wife, that sweet ass of yours will be tattooed with my name on it. That way, even if you do leave, even if you do find Naruto, and decide to become his lover like you have always wanted, my name there will forever know just who you belonged to before him, said Kiba with a grin, but was ruined by a vicious palm strike to the gut by Hinata, and the blow sent the Inuzuka flying into the metal wall of the boat. Hinata, said Kurenai, seeing her former student do that to her own teammate. What? Said Hinata, glaring at the woman she trusts to support her, but instead had just stayed quiet and done nothing. Apologize to Kiba, said Kurenai while Hinata scowled at him. You want me to apologize? After what he said, I'd sooner lick the railing, said Hinata while her former sensei scowled back at her. He's your future husband Hinata. The nicer you are the less discomfort you will feel when married to him, said Kurenai while glancing at her forehead where her headband was and what lay beyond it. I'm going to be feeling all sorts of discomfort whether I'm nice to Kiba or not. We both know it, said Hinata seeing Kurenai look away and knew the Junin also believed it. What was the point of being nice to someone when it wasn't going to be returned? Even still, you will have to be when the child is born, said Kurenai seeing Hinata suddenly radiate killer intent. As if I will ever give Kiba a child. I'd sooner destroy my womb with my own hands than give that arrogant perverted baka a one child from my belly from any so-called union we have together, said Hinata before storming away from a shocked Kurenai. You don't have a choice Hinata. Not this time. The one you want to be with isn't going to come back to Konaha. Not even he can't stop this, said Kurenai making Hinata stop. I don't care about that. No matter what happens while I'm married to Kiba, my heart and my soul will always belong to Naruto-kun. Nothing can change that. Nothing, said Hinata while walking away from her former sensei. She didn't want anyone to see her cry. End flashback. Contestants ready? And, begin, yelled the announcer with both sides cheering for the battle to fight. Suga, said Kiba, as he went forward on the attack against Ryu, who easily moved to the side, dodging the move easily, and didn't look impressed. This tournament is for fighters of skill. Not brawlers, said Ryu seeing Kiba snarl at him. Shut up and prepare to get your ass kicked by the alpha male of the leaf, said Kiba, as he tried to get close, and use his claws to tear into Ryu's flesh. Keyword being tried. Ryu dodged one strike after the next. No one was impressed with Kiba's brawling-like ways, and even expressed it by booing the boy. Kurenai, Kakashi, and Guy didn't understand why their fellow shinobi was being booed since the fighter from the west had barely done anything except dodge. I'm not impressed, said Ryu finally, as he easily caught Kiba's right hand at the wrist, broke it, and then followed up with the locating the Inuzuka's shoulder while spinning the man around so he landed on his back. Ah! Yelled Kiba, as he soon found a bare foot smashing down onto that dislocated shoulder, and could feel his muscles tearing. How do you want this to end, Leaf Shinobi? To go home in pain with your arm attached? Or without it? Said Ryu, as he pulled the arm further, and made Kiba scream out further in pain. I give up, said Kiba tapping the ground to indicate his submission to Ryu. Winner, Hoshi Ryu, yelled the announcer to make the crowd cheer at the victory Ryu gained for the Empire. If you are an alpha of the leaf, then your village is not as strong as you make it out to be, and none of your comrades will advance since they are weaker than you, said Ryu before letting Kiba's arm go, turned to the Emperor in the stands above, bowed, and then left the arena. Bastard, yelled Kiba, as he charged forward with his one good arm cocked back ready to thrust it forward to hit Ryu in the back. Foolish leaf scum. Hadoken, said Ryu, as he turned around, and shot a blue fireball at Kiba that sent flying right off of the arena floor into the wall. Disqualify him, said Kurenai while looking at the Spring Country daimyo doing no such thing. The match is over, Kurenai-san. Kiba attacked after it was declared officially over, said Hinata seeing Kurenai turn and scowl at her. Leaf shinobi support each other no matter what, Hinata, said Kurenai, which got her a glare from Hinata, and the Hyuga girl stood up with her Byakugan active. Just as you supported Naruto-kun? You didn't support him when he was in the leaf or when about to be banished. No one did, except for me, and put into an arranged marriage with Kiba because of it. You say leaf shinobi should support each other no matter what, but all that really means is to support leaf shinobi, who aren't Jinchuriki of the Kyubi, or those that love the Jinchuriki. You and the rest of the leaf shinobi in Konaha are all hypocrites, said Hinata before storming away before Kakashi caught her hand. Hinata, where are you going? Said Kakashi before he found himself on one knee, and his arm being twisted painfully to the point of breaking. That's none of your business and don't you dare touch me again, Hitaki. If you do, I'll take out that Sharingan eye and your balls for good measure, said Hinata coldly before she released him, and walked away. Damn, that girl's got a vice grip, said Kakashi clutching his arm. My emperor, the Hyuga girl is out of their line of sight, said Walter in a whispered tone while seeing Naruto just nod like he was being asked a question and lifted his finger a single inch before a figure from the shadows moved undetected towards Hinata. It was time to set a bird free from her cage. Naruto smiled behind his mask, as he saw Kiba go flying into the wall thanks to Ryu, and knew the leaf did indeed become weaker in his absence. Of course, given all the outside support the leaf had when he was still a shinobi there, it wasn't surprising that things went downhill when allies started pulling away, and Konaha was ostracized for banishing him. The memory of the rookies betraying him once knowing of his burden only made this sample of revenge all the more sweeter in his mind. About 3 years after being emperor of the Western Elemental Empire, Naruto had his first failed assassination attempt against him as the emperor, which not surprisingly was done at the hands of the leaf, and by Danzo's so-called elite team of rude shinobi. Naruto knew it was going to happen sooner or later with that man, since the old power-obsessed asshole not wanting anyone to rise to power no matter where it was happening. Flashback 3 years ago. Naruto was sipping jasmine tea in his private chambers, going over various reports, both financial and military in nature given his title as emperor. With peace finally settling in, it was his duty to assess how the future would turn out with what was in front of him, and what situations will play out with everyone no longer raising weapons against each other. "My emperor, I've come to inform you we have intruders in the imperial palace," said one Walter Dornas coming into the room seeing Naruto nod. "I know. The seals inside the palace detected them. I had the samurai and shinobi move to protect the servants," said Naruto sipping his tea calmly while Walter smirked. "I do not need protection, Emperor," said Walter while Naruto returned the smirk. "Of course not. You are one of a kind, my friend. My personal Shinigami," said Naruto before laughing and seeing Walter bows slightly at being complimented for having such a title. "Do you wish for me to take care of them before they get here?" said Walter seeing the young emperor nod once with his smile growing. "You read my mind, Walter. You've been hanging around psychics too long. Still, I don't want them all dead, as I want to know everything they know in those heads of theirs, and not just about them being sent to kill me. I want the squad leader and at least one of his subordinates kept alive for interrogation before we send them back to their master. In pieces," said Naruto seeing Walter bow. "Your orders will be followed to the letter. I promise not one of these villains will see the light of day after the Empire is done with them. Now, with your permission, my emperor, I believe it's time I gave these young people a proper lesson in violence," said Walter, as he saw Naruto nod, and walked out of the room to do his duty. Several hallways down. "Are you sure the emperor's private quarters are around here?" said one rude shinobi, as he had an uneasy feeling about being able to get this far, and face no opposition. "Yes. Now hurry. Danzo-sama wants the emperor's identity and life before the end of the day," said the rude Anbu captain with his squad rushing through the halls. Only to stop when a door opened and single figure entered the hall before turning to face them in a calm expression his face. The man walked towards them, fearlessly, and with a smile on his face that made the rude shinobi in front of him a bit nervous. With a single action of expanding his left fist into open hand, a quick flash from the lighting warned the rude shinobi of what was coming towards them, and one rude shinobi lost his head at the neck while another closest to the rude Anbu captain lost his right arm. "Oh dear, I killed one of you. I guess it is to be expected in my old age that I would lose some of my edge slightly since my orders are to only maim you," said the figure still walking towards the rude shinobi. "Who the hell are you?" said the rude captain, as he quickly drew his sword, and the others brought out their weapons. "My name is Walter Dornas, butler to the Emperor of the Western Elemental Empire and former Master Shinobi," said Walter before unleashing his microfilament razor wire with the greatest of ease, capturing 3 of the remaining 6 shinobi, and moved with blinding speed not meant for a man of his age. Before a single tug from Walter, who was now behind the rude shinobi, caused the 3 in his wires to become a gory mess on the ground, and make the remaining squad from the leaf back away in fear. The one injured rude shinobi from earlier tried to stand, but quick kick to the head knocked the man out, and brought the loyal butler of the emperor to focus on the remaining root members. "Hurry, run to the emperor's room. I'll distract this guy long enough for you to slay our objective," said the root captain while seeing his 2 subordinates nod and rush off to find the emperor before killing him. "How unwise," said Walter, as he used one hand to bind the rude Anbu captain by both his arms, and then the other 2 by their skulls. "It doesn't matter how much pain you cause us. We won't tell you anything during our interrogation," said the rude Anbu captain while Walter just chuckled before killing the 2 behind the squad leader. "You sound so confident we'll fail, but the way I see it, by the time we get through with you, I highly suspect you will be pissing yourself, followed of course by praying to your impudent master," said Walter before a couple dozen samurai came around the corner and moved to take him away along with the unconscious injured one on the ground. "You will fail," said the rude Anbu captain with Walter's grin increasing, as he quickly and ruthlessly tore both of the man's arms right off before the samurai took both away. "If I were an agent of the East, then maybe I would, but I'm not from the East, and it is my duty to never fail my emperor in what I do," said Walter before he went to summon a detail of servant to clean up this mess he had made. Blood was so hard to get out of good wood and carpeting these days. End flashback. Naruto snapped his mind out the events of the past, as the announcer asked for Rock Lee from the Leaf, and Tifa Lockhart from the Western Elemental Empire. Once more, the Leaf was booed while Tifa was cheered, and some men even asking for her lovely hand in marriage. "Ah Cloud, you better put a ring on that girl's finger before some guy snatches her away," thought Naruto with a smirk, knowing Tifa and Cloud Strife were in a relationship now for a while with no word of an engagement to be married being announced. "My emperor. It is done. My agent has succeeded in his objective. She is yours," said a tall warrior wearing a trench coat and dark purplish fighting attire with a weapon many would believe was a sword. "It wasn't. Thank you for informing me, Aoshi-san. Head down to the fighter waiting area. I don't want you to be disqualified for being late," said Naruto with Aoshi nodding and silently left his side. "What was that young man talking to you about, Emperor Sama?" said Koyuki while her masked hero from years past just turned slightly. "Just some good news that required my attention, Daimyo-sama," said Naruto, knowing he had to keep up appearances and not knowing the woman beyond her title as a daimyo of Spring Country while here before focusing on the fight below. If you could call it that. Lee was always good in taijutsu. Of that, there was no doubt at all, much to Guy's joy in seeing Lee fight from the stands. But the now spandex-wearing Junin had never honed his skills through intense war, and only trained for a fight. Tifa had been part involved with the fighting in the West since she was a child, as she ate, slept, and breathed war until Naruto came along to bring peace. Now, Tifa trained others in taijutsu, pushing herself and everyone around her to the limit every day. No one trained like Tifa did in taijutsu. Rock Lee skidded back, his body aching like never before, and coughed up quite a bit of blood. From the looks of things from a doctor's point of view from seeing the fight, the Leaf Shinobi had 3 cracked ribs, concussion, broken right hand, wrist, and a fracture on his left leg. Lee tried to stand, but it was no use, and Tifa herself had a few bruises on her without question. However, the woman was shrugging it off like what he did was just a quick pinch of skin, and just looked disappointed at him. "So this is the future taijutsu master of the Leaf Village. Pathetic. Naruto told me about you. How you fought Sabaku no Gaara in the Chunin exam preliminaries all those years ago. Nearly took down Gaara, but a simple miscalculation caused you to lose, and nearly become paralyzed from the waist down," said Tifa, making Lee, his fellow Leaf Shinobi competitors, and comrades watching in the stadium to become shocked. "You know Naruto? What has that unyouthful demon done to warp your mind?" said Lee before he was kneed viciously in the face by Tifa, and the loud crunch sound of the spandex-wearing Leaf Shinobi's nose being broken could be heard in the process before rolling backwards until he was face down on the tiled arena floor. "He has done nothing to my mind. It has remained clear long after the day I met him. Go back to your Hokage and tell her Naruto is happy in the Empire. Happier than the hate-filled bigots in the Leaf could ever try to do on a good day," said Tifa before she did a high leaping drop kick onto Rock Lee and broke his spine with the tiles of the arena floor forming a circular spider web to implicate how much force she used in the attack. Rock Lee was down and he was not getting up. "Lee!" yelled Guy, as he saw Tifa be declared the winner, and his student being carted away by medics. "That was for betraying Naruto. He told me how he found Senju Tsunade and got her to return to the Leaf to heal the injured. You being among them if I'm not mistaken, Rock Lee. You are unworthy to walk again after your betrayal of such a considerate boy. Do this world a favor and stay crippled this time," said Tifa before walking away from the broken Leaf Shinobi without regret. "That's not possible," said Neji, as he knew how Lee's skills were pure taijutsu, and that it shouldn't be possible for anyone to match the spandex Junin in his field. Only for Neji to find fate had not decreed Lee the winner like the Hyuga thought. "Are you surprised?" The woman claimed to know Naruto. Maybe he did something to give her the extra edge, said Sasuke with Neji nodding in reluctant agreement to his statement. Perhaps. Naruto is a demon after all, and demons have been known to bless humans in exchange for different things. Perhaps he did something to make that woman stronger than a normal person, thought Neji, as he heard his name be announced, and another by the name of Aoshi Shinomori. As before with Kiba, then Lee himself, when revealing themselves upon their name being announced, Neji was met with booing and hostility that he had never experienced in his life. Aoshi on the other hand was greeted with cheers, praise, screams from women of their love for him, and how they wanted to be the mother of his children while begging him to be their boyfriend, husband. You can't have a weapon with you for this event. It's pure taijutsu only, said the arena announcer in a whispered tone to Aoshi while the tall man just nodded. My apologies. One moment please, said Aoshi, as he walked to the grass area around the large square tiled arena, and instantly his loyal subordinate Hananya appeared almost seemingly out of nowhere to take his weapon. I bring word from her, Aoshi-sama. The woman, who has captured the Emperor's heart, respectfully requests you hurt your opponent in a very painful and ruthless manner, said Hananya seeing Aoshi nod. Does the Emperor agree with this request? Said Aoshi while seeing Hananya nod. He does, said Hananya with Aoshi nodding in understanding. As they both wish, I will do as they command of me, and become the instrument of their vengeance, said Aoshi before turning around and walking back to the center of the arena. You should give up now. Fate has decreed me the winner of this match before it started. Unlike my comrades from the Leaf, I don't lose to anyone, and cannot even to the likes of you, said Neji in his gentle fist stance while Aoshi's cold eyes stared into his own. There was one, who beat you in combat, and he was supposed to be the weakest of the genin in the Leaf at the time, said Aoshi seeing Neji bristle with anger. That did not count. My opponent was a demon. Still is a demon. A fight with a demon does not count, for they use tricks to defy fate and thus are unworthy of their victories, said Neji before he was blasted with cold, cruel killer intent from Aoshi, and yet the taller man showed none of it his face. You will pay dearly for insulting Naruto, said Aoshi while making his knuckles pop when he turned his hands into fists. Begin, yelled the arena announcer before getting clear of the two contestants. Neji charged forward, intent of ending the match quickly and decisively to leave nothing to chance in this fighter from the Western Elemental Empire being victorious. Aoshi had just stood there while Neji moved in close, already knowing what he had to do, as he just dodged one strike, then the second, then the third, fourth, fifth, and by the sixth attempt by the Hyuga did the Leaf Junin start to lose his patience. The people could be heard laughing at him for his misses, calling the gentle fist to be overrated in his hands, and that the Leaf Shinobi were the superior breed they claimed to be, with this fight being proof of it. Is this it? Is this all the power you possess? I was expecting more from the supposed prodigy of the Hyuga clan, said Aoshi, altering his speed at different times to make Neji either hesitate or miss every time. Don't you dare talk like that to me, you commoner, said Neji, missing two more times before moving to perform a Kaden. It was then that Aoshi struck. Quickly moving in, Aoshi aimed low, and broke Neji's with a leg strike before following it up with a spin kick to the Hyuga's face. The sound of the Leaf Shinobi's jaw breaking could be heard, as the Junin went flying back, skidding on the tiled arena floor, and Neji rolled slightly in order to use his momentum to get back on his feet. However, the instant he did, Aoshi struck Neji several times along the torso, the sound of breaking ribs could be heard, and the Hyuga prodigy was soon on the ground again with blood coming out of his mouth before being struck one final time in the head that had caused him to fall down unconscious. Fate does not hold us down unless we wish it to, Hyuga Neji. You use it as crutch and an excuse for everything. Uzumaki Naruto didn't believe in fate. He fought it since the day of his birth with every fiber of his being. You fell from grace, he has risen to that of high standing in the empire, and is respected by all within our borders, said Aoshi, as he left the arena floor while the arena announcer announced his victory, and left without looking back at his fallen foe. I don't believe this, said Kakashi, as he used his Sharingan, but found the treasured eye Obito gave him was unable to not only copy Tifa Lockhart's moves, but Aoshi's speed-altering ability, Ryu's strange blue fireball attack, or any of the taijutsu moves used in any of the matches so far. It doesn't seem possible, said Kurenai, as she didn't expect any of their students to lose until they fought each other, And by that point it would be mostly mute since the majority of the money would go to the Leaf Village. Let's just hope Sasuke has better luck with his opponent, said Kakashi, knowing Guy would put his own opinion in at this point. But the man was currently tending to his 2 former students, and Kurenai would have seen to her own had it not been for the matter of seeing who Sasuke would face. Would Uchiha Sasuke from the Leaf and Toph Bei Fong from the Western Elemental Empire please come forward to arena for your match? Yelled the arena announcer, with the crowd once more going into a frenzy over the names of the contestants. However, the booing from the crowd was a lot worse for Sasuke than Neji, Lee, or Kiba got when he walked to the squared arena, with many calling for the Uchiha's death. The crowd chanting, "Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!" over and over again, while many cheered on Toph to do just that when the match started. "Wow, I had no idea Sasuke was hated by so many people," said Kiba while staring at the Uchiha, who he saw had been surprised, and clearly disliked the fact everyone watching in the stadium was hoping his opponent would kill him. What would you expect in Izuka? Cheers? Women begging him to impregnate them so they could give the Uchiha children for his clan? "The people of Spring Country do not love traitors," said Ryu, as he was beside Kiba, and the Inuzuka growled at him. "No one asked you. Besides, if they hate Sasuke for being a traitor, then why don't they hate Naruto, and the fact he's the Kyubi?" said Kiba before Ryu turned to him and was glaring daggers to the point where the loyal fighter of the Emperor nearly released his other side that would have turned a lot of heads their way. "Watch your tongue or I'll remove it before you can bark. Uzumaki Naruto is hardly the demon you and the rest of Konoha made him out to be during his childhood," said Ryu, seeing Kiba scoff at him. "Says you. I hear the Western Elemental Empire has all sorts of demons running around and the humans around them act like mindless beasts," said Kiba while Ryu's eyes had now narrowed dangerously. "Then you don't know anything about us, little man. The Empire is filled with demons. I will admit that. However, demons are not without thought, and reason, with powers to help as well as hurt. Only when provoked do demons attack, but being the arrogant whelp you are, just like the rest of Konoha, such knowledge escapes your grasp, and thus helps in making you so weak," said Ryu before turning to see the taijutsu match between both Sasuke and Toph begin. "Ready to lose to an elite of Konoha, little girl?" said Sasuke while Toph, who was only a few years younger than Sasuke, just smirked, and made a "bring it" motion. "Like I would lose to a sniveling mama's boy like you," said Toph while Sasuke just scowled in anger before he realized that this girl's stance was weird, and then at him that she was in fact blind. "She's blind," said Sasuke while looking at the Emperor sitting beside the Spring Daimyo while wondering why he would let a blind girl fight. "Is that true?" said Koyuki in surprise while seeing Naruto nod. "That she is, but Toph's skills in taijutsu are some of the best around, and I would not have had her compete here today if I didn't think she could fight," said Naruto with pride in his voice while feeling it for all of his fellow fighters, and knew even behind his mask that Toph would hear it. "Come on, mama's boy. I want to fight. If you've got cold feet, then by all means forfeit, and get out of this arena with your tail between your legs. I'm sure your village will help wipe your nose since they have so much experience doing it in the past," said Toph, as she sensed Sasuke's anger, and no doubt had his Sharingan eyes active. "You'll regret that, little girl. My Sharingan eyes and my Uchiha blood make me superior to you in every way. It's a pity you can't see that," Sasuke while the crowd booed him for the low blow to Toph. "You think me being blind is bad? The best part about being blind is I don't have to look at idiots and spineless cowards like you every day," said Toph while smiling at Sasuke, since Naruto had told her in advance on the airship to attack Sasuke's ego and make him attack her first. "Bitch, you won't be smiling once I beat you within an inch of your life and drag your broken body in front of your emperor," said Sasuke, who charged forward, and tried to land wave after wave of taijutsu strikes at her. But Toph blocked or countered them easily. None of Sasuke's attacks ever hit Toph at all, which baffled Sasuke and the Leaf Shinobi watching, since they never expected a young blind girl to be in this match. Hell, none of them expected their shinobi to lose against fighters from the Empire, and yet here was the end result. It was West vs East, with the West being undefeated in taijutsu against some of the Leaf's most skilled Junin who were trained in the shinobi art since almost from the beginning of their training. Toph dodged a punch to her face, blocked a kick to her stomach, and countered with an elbow to the stomach that caused Sasuke to stumble back. The Uchiha charged forward again, finding himself unable to use the power of his eyes on the blind girl before him, except countering her moves, but even then it was difficult, and was taking hit after hit while Sasuke had yet to land one. It was infuriating. Toph just had this air of calm on her face, as she moved swiftly again, only this time she struck his right kneecap hard with her fist after countering Sasuke's fist, and smooth sweeping kick took the ground right out from under the Uchiha. The Uchiha rose to get up, but found his neck being pressured back down by the intense strength of Toph's right foot being backed by the young girl's leg, and at any moment could kill Sasuke in a heartbeat. Listen up, you weak sniveling prick. Your eyes aren't all that special. Just because you're a so-called elite, like your village doesn't make you great somewhere else. Fighters like me in the West travel all over, fighting each other, seeing how we measure up, and find ways to improve ourselves. That was one of the first things Uzumaki Naruto ever did when he came to the Empire, and he's been kicking ass ever since, said Toph, as she had come to admire the Emperor, and he never discriminated against her for being blind. He encouraged her to grow in being one of the best fighters around. There was no pity in him when it came to seeing her blind. Naruto even politely asked what it was like to see the way she does, given how Toph used her feet when he saw the girl train in secret so her parents wouldn't find out. Toph couldn't really describe it for him, other than that she had the power to see in her own way, and that was good enough for her. When Toph's parents did find out, they had planned to put a stop to the secret taijutsu training altogether, but by that point Naruto had nearly become emperor in all except name, and had a few more regions to take before making it official and ending the war in the West. When Naruto had visited at that point in time, he told Toph's parents that she had potential in fighting, and that being blind wasn't a hindrance for her like they thought. It was an edge. She could see in ways other people couldn't, and thus had the potential to fight at such a high level for someone so young. The girl's parents tried to threaten the cutting of their financial support of Naruto if he tried to dictate parental policy on them again, and Naruto had told them that he never needed their financial support in the first place, so their threat was at face value. Mute. Still, the two adult Bei-Fongs had ignored him, and sadly Naruto had to finish his campaign to unite the West under his peaceful rule. After Naruto became emperor, his agents watching the family had reported Toph's forced seclusion, and finally had enough of these smothering parents. So with the help of some of his Dai Li agents, Naruto was able to smuggle Toph out of her home, which had been a palace almost unto itself, and saw to it she trained with the Dai Li Earth Division, since they too were masters of taijutsu. Toph's parents eventually came to him, demanding the return of their daughter, and Naruto agreed they could, if they could make Toph come home of her free will. The wager had been made by Naruto to Toph's father that if he had a fighter of his own choice, compete in a taijutsu match against his daughter, and won, then Toph would return home without a fuss. However, if Toph won the match, she would be allowed to train with the Dai Li, and even be allowed to live within the walls of the imperial palace as his honored guest while free to move about the city around her. The man accepted, hiring the best taijutsu master he could find that money could buy, who oddly enough went by the name of the Boulder, and had him fight Toph in a one-on-one taijutsu match. Naruto watched from the sidelines, as did Toph's father, while the two slugged it out, and one was declared the winner. The winner by knockout, of course, being one Toph Bei-Fong. After two hard fists to the Boulder sent him flying out of the arena into a wall, with the man's deep body imprint showing just how painful it was for him. With the wager won, Toph became a guest of the Emperor, and a well-trained fighter while not being hassled about restrictions, with the only exception being not getting into trouble by abusing a privilege many would kill to have in her place. While Toph may be young and fearless on account of not seeing like normal people do with their own eyes, she wasn't stupid. Toph knew that to be a guest of the Emperor, learning from the Dai Li, and being treated like a normal person without being blind coming into the picture was a dream come true. That loser will always be a loser, said Sasuke while Toph scowled at the Uchiha before getting a really evil idea. Maybe he is not the best in some cases. Like being a jerk, he sucks at it. Being rude is another example. The guy is very polite and he only hits you with an insult after being hit with one first. However, there is one major thing Naruto does have on him you will never have, and that is having working balls, said Toph, as she moved her foot quickly from Sasuke's neck to his crotch, and with a simple lifting of the bare foot for only a single second, The blind girl brought down a sledgehammer's worth of muscled weight on that section of the Uchiha's body. The high-pitched scream was instantaneous, as Sasuke cried out, and every male covered their crotch discreetly in reaction to it except Naruto. The emperor smirked at the poor Uchiha's situation and wondered how Konoha would treat the man now that the chance to pass on his bloodline was now gone forever unless they pardon Itachi for his crimes. Not going to happen given Itachi's current situation of nearly being blind from overusing his eyes and doing everything to stay under the radar under the protection of the Akatsuki organization. Of that much, Naruto knew very well from his spies, and the Uzumaki was greatly considering having the Uchiha killed to remove one of the three remaining of that clan. Oh yes, the emperor knew all about Madara, as Kyubi had been informative of the man's involvement in their lives after being freed from Naruto's body. A condition made by Naruto since at the time of deal being struck, the blonde was sick, and very much tired of secrets being kept from him. Kyubi agreed and promised on all 9 of his tales he would tell Naruto everything that others didn't wish to tell him. I wonder, if the people knew the truth, would they still hate me, or kill my ass like they do Sasuke? Or rather, did Sasuke now that the Sharingan is lost to them? Thought Naruto while the arena announcer declared Toph the winner while still covering his crotch with one hand. We lost, said Kakashi while none of the other Leaf Junin watching could believe it. This is a nightmare, said Kurenai, as she couldn't believe her student, much less Sasuke, had lost his match, and after the Uchiha had started training again the very second the 3-year suspension by the Fire Daimyo ended. It's almost a shame the Leaf Shinobi here lost. Don't you agree, Emperor-sama? Said Koyuki while Naruto nodded slightly. Yes, keyword being of course being. Almost, said Naruto while the two rulers let out a chuckle of amusement. Do you wish your fighters to continue with the tournament? The West had pretty much won no matter what happens, said Koyuki with Naruto nodding. It would be insulting to them if I didn't give them a chance to test their skills in taijutsu against each other. Besides, the crowd paid good money to see these fights, and it would be an insult to them to deny what they paid for when they bought the tickets, said Naruto with Koyuki smiling while nodding in agreement. I concur. However, I feel that the Leaf Shinobi here should be denied the right to see it, and be removed from the stadium, said Koyuki seeing Naruto nod and could practically sense his smile. Not a problem. By now the Leaf Junin in the stands will be seeing to their students and will soon find one of their group isn't with them, said Naruto with Koyuki's eyes widen in surprise. They'll be so busy looking for their missing shinobi, the matches will go on without any of their eyes watching them, and seeing how the West fights, said Koyuki with Naruto nodding while the smile behind his mask increased. Exactly. The situation will be further enforced given the Uchiha's current injury, said Naruto while looking at where the Leaf Shinobi in the stand had been and were no longer there. Then let's continue the tournament, said Koyuki before she signaled her subordinate to inform the arena announcer to continue with this event. Stadium Medical Station. I still can't believe we lost, said Kakashi while seeing Sasuke's private area was being attended to by the medic on hand. They crippled Lee. Now not even Tsunade-sama skills may not be able to heal him, said Guy, as he saw his students on their backs, and severely injured. Those Western Empire bastard, don't they know what they've done? We should file a complaint with the Fire Daimyo, said Kurenai seeing her student's arm in a sling after it was put back into place and was told it was fractured in several places along with other bandaged up areas of Kiba's body from Ryu's fireball attack. There is nothing we can do, Kurenai. Kiba was seen by a stadium full of witnesses losing and then attacking after the match was over. Neji, Lee, and Sasuke both lost their matches in taijutsu while signing waivers beforehand that they knew the risks. Filing a complaint would be considered childish and a waste of time since it will most likely be denied on its face value, said Kakashi with the others reluctantly agreed. Still, it isn't right. The fact they knew Naruto too makes things worse. He probably told them how each of our students was trained, said Kurenai with a frown on her face. But that information would be out of date after so many years. How could he know how Lee fights now? Or Neji? Said Guy seeing the same confused looks on their faces. What do you think, Hinata? 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 Said Kurenai when she realized her second student was not with them and the horrible truth that she had not since Kiba's defeat. Where is she? Hinata wouldn't run off, would she? Said Kakashi seeing Kurenai bite her lip, but still shake her head no, and knew Hinata wouldn't run. Even if she did, the cage bird seal would kick in when we came home to inform her father, and be killed to ensure no one to the Byakugan in any way, said Kurenai, as she saw both her fellow Junin nodding in agreement, and knew Hinata's freedom would be short-lived. We should speak to the Emperor of the Western Elemental Empire. All those fighters claim to know Naruto and she may seek out answers about him, said Guy, seeing the group nod in agreement. We will after the tournament is over and only as a last resort. For now, we need to find Hinata on our own, and before anyone else realizes she's missing to report it to another hidden village like Kumo, said Kurenai, knowing she could begin right away since Kiba wasn't in need of her bedside manner like the others. I can help Kurenai-sensei. I may be messed up right now, but my nose still works, and can track her scent just about anywhere, said Kiba while walking with difficulty over to the woman. I'm going to need it given how large the stadium is and how much of a head start she has on us, said Kurenai before she left with Kiba stumbling along. With Naruto and Koyuki an hour later. Impressive, said Koyuki, seeing Ryu and Tifa fighting it out in an intense battle of skill and power with neither one giving in. Training for a war is only half the way to get stronger. One must be in a war and survive it, said Naruto, knowing every one of his fighters here had done so before his own time in the West. A sad truth. Many have long forgotten that, said Koyuki, knowing her people have not forgotten it, but people in the Leaf had, and believed themselves invincible since they had never been humbly defeated. With each victory, the pride of the Leaf swelled, and in the process, their own downfall when that pride blinded them to the painful truth when fighting 3-to-1 odds. Winner, Tifa Lockhart of the Western Elemental Empire, yelled the arena announcer while pointing to the pretty beaten injured woman with a raised arm in the air while clutching her ribs. Ryu stumbled over to her, as his own body looked pretty battered, but it didn't stop him from extending his hand, and getting one in return from Tifa and accepting it. The crowd went into another frenzied cheer for the two fighters, who fought against each other, and yet showed respect at the end. My Emperor, we have uninvited guests, said Walter in the Emperor's ear, with Naruto's eyes shifting from the arena floor where Aoshi and Toph were about to fight their match to the pair of Leaf Shinobi walking towards them. Only to be blocked by Naruto's Shinsengumi bodyguards led by Hajime Saito, who the Emperor had convinced to join him in bringing about peace and order to the West under his rule. Like Saito, the Uzumaki had no tolerance for corruption, and supported Saito's belief in the slaying of those that were, since corruption would destroy the empire from within. You are not allowed up here. Leave, said Saito in a calm yet serious voice. We need to speak to the Emperor. It's very important, said Kurenai while trying to be polite to the Emperor's bodyguard and not being intimidated. If I let you see him, the Emperor will miss the match below, and will become displeased by the interruption of his fighters competing, said Saito while glaring at the woman and the Inuzuka behind her. What does it matter if we interrupt him or not? His empire's already getting the money for this tournament since his fighters are the only ones competing, said Kiba angrily and with impatience since he wanted Hinata back in his grasp. Kiba, shut up, said Kurenai while looking back slightly before turning back to a less than amused Saito, now looking to grab the hilt of his sword to unsheath his weapon to cut them both in two. Watch your mouth, boy. Just because what you say is true about the Empire winning no matter who fights, the Emperor himself wishes to see the potential of his fighters, and let them know he values them, said Saito while Kiba took a quick half a step back on sheer reflex alone. Our apologies, Samurai-san. It's just, we believe someone we know, who he is missing from our group, may have come in contact with someone in the Empire, and spoken to the Emperor to grant her asylum, said Kurenai, and saw Saito's eyes narrow dangerously. And why would you suspect this individual would wish asylum within our empire, and what makes you believe the Emperor would even consider granting it? Said Saito while Kurenai shifted uneasily since she didn't know how to explain things to the man and the risk of offending him with how Hinata's current standing in life. We believe she wishes to be with someone in your empire. She is in love with one Uzumaki Naruto and yet is to be married to another individual, said Kurenai while hoping to use Naruto's name to get some kind of sympathy from the bodyguard. Yeah, me, said Kiba behind Kurenai while the woman shut her eyes and mentally cursed the Inuzuka for speaking his mind. I see. And since Uzumaki Naruto is in the empire, seen as a great man among its people, you believe this woman marrying him will cause your missing person to possibly seek out the Emperor, or someone within the empire of high standing to save the woman from this arranged marriage. Am I right? Said Saito, seeing Kurenai nod. For the most part. We tried to track her, but the scent went cold, and since the empire has so many of its agents here guarding the emperor, said Kurenai while not finishing her sentence because she was embarrassed to explain further. You wish the emperor to waste his time and the time of his forces looking for someone you along with your group lost. Out of the question, and to even suggest it only further inflames your village's incompetence, said Saito, seeing Kurenai scowl and Kiba looking pissed off. Hey, listen up samurai, my future wife has gone missing, and it's all because of that demonic abomination. She has some foolish notion is deserving of love. So you tell that demon when you see him that my woman better not go anywhere near him or else I'm going to kick his ass, said Kiba, seeing Saito's eyes become cold, cruel, and filled with bloodlust that gave him the appearance of a wolf. A very angry and hungry wolf. You have the next 3 seconds after I'm done talking for the two of you to get out of my sight before I take your heads clean off for your insolence, said Saito, seeing the 2 leaf shinobi were gone by the time he counted to 3, and sure enough they were gone from his line of sight. Was that really necessary, Saito? Said Naruto while glancing at his chosen captain of Shinsengumi to watch over him while here. When it comes to leaf shinobi and their ways, my emperor. Absolutely, said Saito, as he only had contempt for Konaha and their way of doing things. Agreed. I'm sorry Koyuki, but after the matches and award ceremony are over, I have to leave immediately, and with all speed before the leaf make it back to Konaha to report one of their shinobi has gone missing, said Naruto, seeing Koyuki nod, knowing the leaf would no doubt do since it was the Hyuga girl missing and he had informed the Spring Daimyo about Hinata's situation. I'm sure I can convince the captain of their boat to delay his departure from Spring long enough for you to do what needs to be done, said Koyuki, knowing the emperor had a plan to help out Hinata and the only real obstacle standing in his way was time itself. The fight with Aoshi and Toph soon ended, as Aoshi had used his years of experience in fighting and training to counter Toph's skills that came with her blindness. The man did acknowledge Toph in being highly skilled for her age and would like to see her continue the pursuit of being a true taijutsu master. The next match was between Tifa and Aoshi, with the two using their remaining strength to give everybody around them a good final show. The winner of the match was Tifa, but only by a hair, as she had been beaten up pretty badly by Ryu in her match, and Aoshi was still pretty fit after his own fight with Toph. When it was over, the crowd was in a cheering frenzy, applauding the fighters of the Western Elemental Empire, and even the Emperor himself for sending these fighters to compete. Spring Daimyo Koyuki and the Emperor stood before each of the fighters chosen by him for this tournament. The Emperor personally expressed how happy he was in seeing them fight each other so well, yet keep their honor, and showed respect for one another after the matches were over. Each one was presented an award for their fight, while Tifa got the prize money, which she gave to the Emperor since they had all competed for him, and the Empire to do what he wished with it. In return, Naruto gave them each a fair share of the money, claiming they each did well, and all of them had earned every bit owed from this tournament. With the award ceremony over, the Emperor along with his fighters and entourage had decided to head back to the airship to immediately return to the Empire safely. Naruto bid Koyuki continued success on her movies, which he also invested in, and Spring Country being a strong prosperous land under her rule. Koyuki expressed the same to him with the Empire and his plans for the future, while secretly telling Naruto that Spring would be a home away from home should he ever need one. With the Emperor arriving at the airship's ramp, he stopped before turning to see the leaf shinobi his fighters had beaten, and their senseis along with them. Due to the severity of his injuries, Rock Lee was in a wheelchair, the same with Sasuke, though for an entirely different injury. Neji was walking with the help of crutches, and Kiba, well, he looked like some poor half-assed mummy. Can we help you, leaf shinobi? Said Kyubi, having been watching the ship since it docked to ensure no one tampered with it. We need to speak to the Emperor about Hyuga Hinata, said Kakashi while seeing the Emperor's mask face shift slightly. What about her? Said Naruto in his regal voice that meant to everyone to keep certain information about him a secret from the leaf shinobi. She's missing. We believe she went to you for help, said Kakashi simply. Help for what? Help with what? You're being vague and I find it insulting, said Naruto in a cold tone at the Junin he once called his sensei. Even now it left a bitter taste in Naruto's mouth. It's in regards to one Uzumaki Naruto. We believe she is seeking a way to get to him, said Kurenai in the hopes her female voice would draw his attention more her way. As much as Kurenai hated to admit it, her female figure could be used to make the man behind the mask lose his composure, and maybe see fit to help them get answers. Why, does she seek to harm him? Said Kyubi while already knowing that wasn't the case and had to play the cautious chief advisor. No. Oh, Cammy, no. She loves the dumb idiot. Always has. But there are complications in her life that are preventing Hinata from being with him and some serious consequences if she doesn't come back with us to Konaha, said Kurenai while the emperor shook his head. I can't help you find her. Even if she came to me in a hypothetical sense for whatever reason, I cannot return Hyuga Hinata back to you unless it is of her own free will, and her business within the empire was concluded, said Naruto with a smirk on his face at seeing Kiba's face becoming redder, the Uchiha's Sharingan eyes. So if Hinata-san was on that airship right now, you wouldn't return her back to us, and risk the wrath of the Leaf Village? Said Kakashi while the emperor's forces just let out an amused chuckle before the emperor himself raised his hand to silence them. Do not believe for a single second, son of the White Fang, that a single shinobi village like yours can handle the might of a war-hardened empire forged from years of battle, and blood spilled on the ground. I have a handful of agents unafraid to die for me within my lands, who can easily turn Konoha into crater, and all I have to do is command them to carry out the order. Do not test me on this matter, Hitaki, said Naruto with his voice sounding colder with each passing second. My emperor, we should go. Their very presence is sickening to my stomach, and yours too, said Kyubi seeing Naruto nod in agreement. Yes, let's go everyone. The empire awaits and the duties of its emperor call to me even now from here. You too. Kyubi, said Naruto seeing the red-armored samurai that was the demon lord himself nod with smirk behind his samurai mask face and walk towards the airship's ramp while ignoring the shocked looks of the Leaf Shinobi. Did he just call that guy, Kyubi? Said Kurenai, as she kept her eyes on the supposed fox, and her instincts told the female Junin to reach for a weapon to slay the creature. Naruto, get back here with my future wife, you damn demon, yelled Kiba while glaring at the red-armored demonic fox going up the airship ramp. You are mistaken, boy. I am not Naruto, but I'll happily kill you here, and now if you try my patience any further, said Kyubi while staring into Kiba's eyes with his own that glowed with malice in them for the Leaf Shinobi around him before walking up the ship after hearing silence from the fools. With the airship ramp now closed, the vehicle took off into the air, towards the Western Elemental Empire, and leaving behind stupefied as well as enraged Leaf Shinobi behind. It would be at least a week before the captain of the ship Kakashi and the others were scheduled to return on to Konoha was ready to depart. When asked why by Kakashi, the ship's captain ironically told the Junin he got lost on the road of life, got drunk, and just relaxed on a well-earned vacation. A vacation paid for by the Spring Daimyo herself for assisting in the silent request and for his silence on the matter behind the sudden vacation that delayed the Leaf Shinobi in getting back home. In the airship some hours later. We're in the clear, my emperor, said Ayame of the Hayabusa village, as she along with the rest of the shinobi on the ship had done a sweep for bugs, sabotage, and anything else that could cause the ship to have an accident while in the air. Of course, Kyubi was on the ship beforehand, but it was a protocol that Naruto had put into place in case the fox wasn't there to always watch his back and ensure security. It would have gone into effect regardless if Kyubi was on the ship, or not, with the extra security measures all the more important with their special guest on board. Thank you, Ayame. You may go, said Naruto while Ayame bowed and then left without speaking another word while the emperor himself looked at the person across from him. Hyuga Hinata. If Kami did exist, then it was a she, and forged this woman before him to be her avatar to represent her. And if by chance Kami was in fact a guy? Well, then it just proved Kami was a big damn pervert, and Naruto had somehow gotten in with the deity's good graces to have Hinata with him now. Hinata was a stunner. Pure and simple. Every guy that saw her for the first time must have walked into something when they turned their heads to keep staring. The shapely creamy legs that his blue eyes could admire forever, as the pants she wore were tight, stopping a bit more above the ankle, and a heavy coat he knew was done to keep people from looking at her well-developed chest. Her face would make angels jealous. Hinata's long blue hair had a shine to it that in a way, would make the finest silk in the world look like dirty mud-covered hay, and it flowed all the way down to the small of her back. She was magnificent. You've grown up. Naruto-kun, said Hinata before she paled at not addressing him as emperor while the Uzumaki before her just smiled behind his mask. It's all right, Hinata-chan. Every one of my men and women that serve me know how I feel about you. How you feel about me. There is no need to address me by my title. Just be yourself, said Naruto, as he removed his helmet and mask to reveal the face behind it to Hinata. Oh. Wow. Said Hinata before she fainted at the sight of seeing his face onto the couch she was sitting on with that face covering blush. Some things never change, said Naruto with a chuckle before walking over to the couch Hinata was on and sat down gently on the side she didn't fall sideways on. After a bit of prodding of the woman's side, Hinata finally awoke, thinking what she had just witnessed mere seconds ago was a dream, maybe nightmare depending on your point of view of seeing it, and had woken up from that place to be in a living nightmare. Only when she saw herself in an airship, heading to the Empire, and Naruto sitting right beside her on the couch did she realize, it wasn't a nightmare. It was for real. This isn't a dream? This isn't a dream. This isn't a dream. This isn't a dream, said Hinata, as she squealed in delight, and hugged Naruto with all the strength she had. No, Hinata. It's not. It's all right. You're safe now, said Naruto while holding the woman in his arms. If only that were true. When Kurenai along with the others get back to Konaha, they will report back of me missing, and then use the cage bird seal to, said Hinata, as she started to cry, and hugged him tighter. To kill you. I know about everything. I wanted to come for you. I wanted to send some of my best agents, who I trust without question to protect me, retrieve you from Konaha, and come back here so we could be happy together. All I can really do is say that I'm sorry for not getting you sooner, said Naruto, as he had wanted to so desperately get Hinata out of Konaha, but his duties with the Empire, and the fact the girl now woman was always kept close to home because of Kumo's increasingly aggressive nature and wanting the Byakugan provided poor timing. It's not your fault, Naruto-kun. I should have run away with you. Or later on when I was strong enough to escape before they branded me with the cage bird seal, said Hinata while feeling him slowly remove her headband, and she instinctively tried to stop him. Don't, let me see. Let me see what they've done to you, said Naruto softly, as he saw her hesitate at first, but complied with his wishes, and felt him remove her leaf headband from her forehead, to reveal the cage bird seal in all of its ugly glory. I'm forever scarred, said Hinata sadly while she felt his fingertips touch the seal gently, and she had to fight back the flinch that wanted to occur from the touch, since Hiyashi had been less than gentle in putting it on her. Don't count yourself out yet, my dear. Sitting before you is a genuine seal master, said Naruto, as he put his index and middle fingers on the center of the seal where the main symbol was before channeling chakra to it. The thing about seals, which few knew about, and even fewer could understand, was the fact that they were basically locks on doors. To unlock a seal required either the right combination, which may involve someone's blood, or picking the lock with the skills of seal master. It all depended on the level of skill and understanding the seal master had of seals in general in their design and purpose. In this case, the cage bird seal was not only archaic, but simple to understand, as it was basically a cage and locking mechanism tied to the optic nerves along the brain. It was a primitive thing among seals, but effective in its purpose, and had no unlocking system in its design. It was designed to make the person wearing it a prisoner and slave in all but name to the Hyuga clan. However, its greatest strength in lacking an unlocking system within the seal was also its greatest weakness, as it left no defense to picking the lock itself, which required a seal master, a connection to the main system of the seal itself, and matter of picking the lock to make the seal shut down on itself. The seal had no real defense against someone attacking the system behind its design, which monitored the seal's purpose and overall function. Once the system behind the seal was accessed, a seal master could do whatever he or she wanted to the settings of the seal itself. In Hinata's case, it was shutting it down without the power behind it. Basically, taking the purpose behind the seal and just turn it into a simple removable paint job on her forehead. With simple subtle movements of his fingertips, Naruto picked the lock on the cage bird seal, his mind accessing the system behind the seal, and basically tricked it into believing it had done its secondary objective in sealing off the Byakugan. All it had to do now was power down and prepare for its own termination with a washcloth dipped in ink removing liquid. Did it work? said Hinata, as she felt a tingling sensation on her forehead when Naruto touched the seal, and it spiked slightly before ending shortly after the quick spike in the sensation. See for yourself, said Naruto using her own leaf headband to show the cage bird seal had lost its potency and all it required now was some scrubbing to get it removed. And it won't activate at all, said Hinata with Naruto smiling. No, I basically shut it down. The thing about the inner workings of the cage bird seal is that it follows simple commands based on its design, and lacks intelligence to defend itself against seal masters like myself. It was designed to seal away the eyes in a way to protect the bloodline from being examined upon removing them, but the seal has no inner defenses like mine did in containing Kyubi, and thus was easy to turn off, said Naruto before he was tackled by Hinata and she kissed him deeply on the mouth. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, said Hinata, as she kissed him deeply each time after every thank you, and Naruto wasn't one to ignore such thanks, since that would be rude. And Naruto could only return it to say, "You're welcome," to her. Hinata did what? Yelled Tsunade from her office, which had the volume of the yell being so loud, it shook the whole tower, and could be heard by the village populace below. Hinata fled to the Western Elemental Empire to be with Uzumaki Naruto, said Kurenai, as she barely got those words out of her mouth when they arrived before Tsunade yelled out her question, and the look of pure fury in those eyes to match her voice. But that's not the worst news, said Kakashi seeing Tsunade turn her attention to him. Explain, said Tsunade while seething inside. Kyubi is free. By Naruto, said Kakashi seeing Tsunade's eyes widen in shock and fear before they narrowed again. What, did you just say? Said Tsunade seeing Kakashi now becoming nervous. The Kyubi is apparently, free, said Kakashi before hearing the sound of Tsunade's desk breaking in two when the woman brought her fist down upon it. That idiot boy, doesn't he know the consequences of doing that? If Naruto's not dead already from that he soon will be when I get my hands on him, said Tsunade while the Junin in front of her were concerned about how she would react to this. All their former students injured from the tournament were in the hospital at the moment and almost wished they were switching places. Almost wished. Some of the injuries were too sadistic in how they had been delivered by the Empire's fighters to wish swapping their current situations. Uzumaki Naruto is apparently alive Hokage-sama, though how close he actually is to the Emperor himself is unknown. From what we heard from the fighters that participated in Spring Country, he's very close, and is well respected over there, said Kakashi while seeing Tsunade's anger growing. Well, there is one way to find out. Find Jiraiya, bring his ass in here now. I need to talk to him. The councils, and the clan heads about this situation we're now in, said Tsunade furiously with the three Junin nodding and leaving to get the Sannin before the Hokage blew her top. Tsunade-sama, you should really calm down, said Shizune, but the glare Tsunade sent her caused any further advice to halt in her throat, and take a step back. Calm down? Calm down. We've lost support from allies, our daimyo, and just now I learn Hyuga Hinata has left for the Empire. I now have to handle Hinata's father, the political backlash from dealing with the Western Elemental Empire, and their views of the village regarding Naruto's banishment, said Tsunade while Shizune fidgeted slightly under her gaze. It was wrong Hokage-sama, said Shizune quietly to the older woman. What? Said Tsunade not hearing the younger woman clearly. I said it was wrong to banish Naruto for doing his job Hokage-sama, said Shizune in a much louder voice. I didn't ask you for your opinion on the matter Shizune, said Tsunade while younger woman herself now scowled heavily. At least tell me why you went along with the banishment? After everything he has done for this village, for you in believing in yourself after so many years, and getting over your fear of blood. Why? Said Shizune wanting an explanation. Because like it or not the boy was a threat to the village. Not because of the Kyubi but because of his heritage, and needed to be cut loose beforehand, said Tsunade seeing the shock on Shizune's face. What heritage? Said Shizune seeing Tsunade snort and look away just to see Jiraiya there on the windowsill. Naruto is the son of Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato, said Jiraiya while he ignored Tsunade's glare and focused on Shizune. Naruto is the son of the Yondaime, said Shizune, as she had always speculated, but never really thought it was possible, and yet, Jiraiya just confirmed it. Yeah, if the village find out before Naruto's banishment, a civil war would have broken out, both Iwa and Kumo would be breathing down our necks even more. At the time, the leaf couldn't protect Naruto from his father's outside enemies, and with the Akatsuki now causing further problems in wanting the kid for the Kyubi, we had to choose. We had to choose between the leaf and Naruto. We chose the leaf, said Jiraiya sadly while Tsunade looked away. You chose the village? Even after all the abuse, the hatred, and pain they unleashed on Naruto? Naruto was and is the son of the Yondaime. If you were trained by you, he could have become stronger than his father, and yet you went along with the banishment, said Shizune with Jiraiya looking away while Tsunade scoffed. And what would Naruto do with that power once he learned the truth? He would have crushed the village in retaliation. The order to banish him was going to happen whether the Gaki succeeded in his mission or not. Naruto needed to know what it was to survive without the village supporting him and have a humbling experience where he understood the need to be a leaf shinobi no matter the situation, said Tsunade while Shizune turned to face her and gave the female Hokage the deepest scowl the Slug Princess had ever seen her student give. Humble? Humble. You call banishing Naruto from the village a humbling experience? After this village gave him next to nothing and what they did give being poor quality. The boy was in hell when living in this village while I was taking care of you Tsunade and you Jiraiya were out peeping in the hot springs of different villages. If anything, you two should have been humbled, but your own arrogance wouldn't let it happen, and now that Naruto is happily free to do what he wants in the Western Elemental Empire. You feel scorned. What is the matter with you two? Said Shizune before she stormed out of the room with Jiraiya sighing and rubbing the back of his neck. Ouch! Said Jiraiya while sitting down in a chair across from Tsunade. Shizune's still young and will get over it, said Tsunade, as she saw Jiraiya not looking entirely convinced, and just decided to accept the woman's judgment on the matter. You called me here for something important? Said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade nod. Yes, Naruto is in the Empire like we first thought years ago, but now Hyuga Hinata is there too, and she wants to be with him, said Tsunade with Jiraiya wincing at hearing the girl going over to the Empire. That's bad. The Hyuga elders will want her seal activated and when they do, said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade nod. She'll die. Slowly, painfully, and right in front of Naruto no less if she's that unlucky, said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya's face having a grim look to it. And if Naruto has some decent pull with the Emperor, said Jiraiya while going a bit pale in the face. The Emperor could cause us a lot of problems if he felt a need to get involved in some way, said Tsunade knowing the Fire Daimyo did not want to invoke the wrath of the Empire on his lands. Worse, he could go around the political view of things and send his agents to basically cripple the leaf so badly only one of our enemies from finishing the job, said Jiraiya and saw Tsunade wince knowing he was right. We need to discuss this with the councils and clan heads. There is one more thing they need to know that you don't and it's not pretty, said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya's face getting grimmer. When is it ever pretty? Said Jiraiya before following Tsunade out of her office to the meeting room where the councils and clan heads were awaiting them. Shizune was very good at her job since she knew what needed to be done while Tsunade talked to Jiraiya first. Are the rumors true? Is the Kyubi roaming around freely in the Empire? Said Kaharu while Jiraiya looked shocked and then looked at Tsunade glaring at the older woman. First, the meeting here is not official until I sit down and say it is. Second, I was going to address that matter, and if you defy me again I'll have you arrested for treason. Third, the rumors are indeed true from what Kakashi, Kurenai, and Guy have told me about how the Emperor himself spoke to Kyubi's name with the supposed demon fox responding to it, said Tsunade, which caused a fury of shouting and yelling over how to handle this matter. The demon must be eliminated, someone shouted. He will use his demon magic to influence the Emperor to order an invasion here in the east. We need to kill them both, said another person. Prepare 4 ambush squads of our most skilled shinobi and Jiraiya to go into the Empire to kill them. It will fall apart and we'll be safe once more, said another councilman and the shouting continued. Silence, yelled Tsunade, as she slammed her fist down, and made everyone shut up. What you are asking Tsunade to do is potentially suicidal not only for the shinobi sent out, but for the village itself, as failure of such a mission would result in a war with the Empire, and we are already in danger of being destroyed by 3 major powers here in the east. I don't need to remind you of the potential scandal we had when the box filled the remains of rude shinobi were dropped on our doorstep in pieces and the Empire's insignia on the box with a warning from the Emperor, said Jiraiya while Danzo stiffened slightly at remembering that fact. Then we appealed to the fire daimyo. Tell him the Kyubi got free, is in the empire, and should be extradited back here to Konaha for its crimes against the village, said Homura while seeing the other members nod in agreement. And in return, the emperor could ask the people of Konaha be brought up on charges against Naruto for their hand in his abuse, and will have the backing of our former allies to put pressure on the fire daimyo to side with the empire, said Jiraiya, knowing that this was a two-way street when it came to sensitive politics. Someone always got screwed. What do you suggest we do? Sit here and do nothing, said Kaharu, as she saw Jiraiya shake his head, and could see he already had a plan. We need to handle this covertly. Look, the empire is stable enough that I can enter it without the risk of someone killing me just for being there, and at the very least I'll be arrested with the chance of facing the emperor himself on those charges. I talk to him, get some insight into the kind of man he is, and use my charm to convince him to let me go with a signed copy of one of my books to get the man onto our side, said Jiraiya with a confident grin while Tsunade rolled her eyes. And just how do you intend to get the emperor on our side? He already knows about the Kyubi, as the man has been in contact with the demon brat, and the demon himself for roughly 6 years. The chances of him hearing you out are very slim, Jiraiya, said Danzo, as he saw Jiraiya shrug since it was a risk, and shinobi take risks every day. I'll think of something. At best, I can convince the emperor to hand over Hinata, and let this whole ugly business be left alone, since provoking him over Kyubi seems like a rush to death. If anything, I should try to ask for the empire to ally with us, and keep our own enemies off our back. Not to mention, if successful, it could gain us our old alliances back to further make Orochimaru and the other shinobi villages trying to batter down our doors, said Jiraiya, seeing the people in the room nod in understanding. Hiyashi-sama, you've been awfully quiet throughout this meeting. I half expected you to throw a temper tantrum over the loss of your daughter, said Tsunade, seeing the Hyuga was surprisingly calm. I sensed my daughter might try something like this with the emperor, so after the group leaving was late returning home, I personally activated Hinata's cage bird seal, and left the empire a pathetic weak corpse. The only thing that Demon Brat has now is an empty lifeless body, said Hiyashi with a smirk on his face at the victory over his daughter and the man she loved. Thanks a lot, Hiyashi-san. You've just made my mission so much easier, said Jiraiya sarcastically while the Hyuga grimaced, knowing he was right. You have your mission, Jiraiya. Go with a team I'll send with you to talk to the emperor, convince him to return Hinata's body to us, and at the very least, bring Naruto back here to Konoha, said Tsunade while those in the room were grumbling in disgust at how they didn't need the demon brat in the first place and it was foolish to try. Imperial Palace. Days later, Hinata was in the royal gardens of the Imperial Palace, loving the flowers that were in it, as they seemed too exotic, rare, and filled with life. It was heaven on earth, and that was truer with Naruto here in the palace. Naruto had expressed how much he missed her, how much her words meant to him over the years, during the hard battles, the fights, and the near-death experiences he had when fighting to unite the land into what was now the Empire. Naruto told Hinata that it was because of her words to him years ago before he left, that he had survived the brutality of the war itself, and had long since planned to do something to save Hinata when the time came upon the uniting all the lands in the West. Then, just when Hinata didn't think she could be more surprised by Naruto, he gets on one knee, looks her right in the eyes, and asks the Hyuga to marry him. To be his one and only woman in the world with his heart in her hand. When he produced the heart-shaped diamond ring, Hinata hugged, kissed, and accepted without hesitation right in front of several individuals. Walter smiled, Kyubi smirked. Liu Bei along with his sworn brothers cheered at the sight of their emperor, who had finally found his other half, ask the woman to marry him, and hear her accept. Nothing could ruin Hinata's happiness at that moment, as she wanted to have the wedding right away, and everyone to know of their wedding. Naruto agreed, but he told her that a condition of being his wife was to get stronger, and that she wasn't going to be a pampered empress like so many of wives of the daimyos in the East. Many of them had never had a hard day's work in their lives, having servants do the chores, never working hard, or heavy labor when required. Hinata accepted the condition without hesitation, as she had wanted to be strong from the start, and wasn't going to stop until she was second if not tied for first only to her husband in terms of strength. So Naruto had Hinata training with some of the Empire's best female fighters like Tifa Lockhart and Chung Li for taijutsu training. From the Southern Water Division, Naruto had a woman named Katara help Hinata with mastering her own water affinity, and learning new ways of healing using water itself when mixed with chakra that was properly attuned to the element. "Are you enjoying yourself, Empress Sama?" said Yoko Kurama, a fox demon with great skill and deadly precision in everything he did. "Oh yes. Thank you for asking, Kurama-san. Your flowers in the garden are so beautiful," said Hinata, as she noticed Kurama was in his more humanized state, and wondered why that was since she didn't mind the more fox-like form. "Thank you for the compliment, Empress Sama. The Emperor himself said you would like the garden and I am pleased to see he was right," said Kurama, bowing to the Hyuga. "There is no need to be so formal, Kurama-san. I'm not the Empress yet. Even still, I wish us to speak normally since I am your friend, and you are mine, correct?" said Hinata, as she saw the brief look of surprise on Kurama's face for a second before it became a gentle smile, and saw him nod. "I would like that very much," said Kurama, as he knew without a doubt in his mind that Naruto had chosen his wife and Empress wisely. "May I ask why you are here, Kurama-san?" said Hinata, knowing the man, or rather fox demon, was here for a reason. "Yes, I'm afraid that news has come of a traveler, who wishes to speak to the Emperor, and this man wishes to talk to your future husband about." "You?" said Kurama, seeing the Hyuga girl's eyes widen. "Me? Did the traveler say his name?" said Hinata, seeing Kurama nod, though he didn't look happy about it. "His name is Jiraiya of the Sannin. He was in the company of a few Konaha shinobi that were his escort here. They were your age or around it, with some being even older. I can only guess they were either your classmates, they graduated a year ahead of you, or some of the more veteran shinobi from the Leaf," said Kurama, seeing Hinata nod understand. "Is my future husband speaking to Jiraiya now?" said Hinata, seeing Kurama shake his head in a negative way. "No. Naruto has been stalling Jiraiya and his escort while keeping a close eye on them should some of them wander off where they shouldn't. He requests you join him in the royal audience chambers for this meeting with them, and to let you know Kyubi will also be attending for his own reasons," said Kurama, as he saw Hinata smirk, and knew that she knew the Emperor had a plan up his sleeve to make the Konoha shinobi really piss themselves. "I shouldn't keep my future husband waiting, now should I?" said Hinata, with Kurama also smirking, as he extended his hand, which Hinata took while he escorted her to the royal audience chamber, and sit by her lover before he addressed the Leaf shinobi a few rooms away. "Waiting room with Jiraiya and group. Fancy place the Emperor's got here. Not too showy, but not too simplistic either, and the female help aren't bad looking either. Who wants to bet he's banged at least one of them just for the fun of it?" said Kiba, now fully healed with Akamaru by his side. "Just make sure your dog doesn't mark anything here, Kiba. We're guests here. The fewer to no P markings this place has from Akamaru, the better chance we have of this little meeting with the Emperor going smoothly, and avoid the chopping block," said Jiraiya, seeing Kiba nod, and gave a look to Akamaru. "I'll be respectful to the Emperor, but if Naruto's around," said Sakura, as she had every intention of smashing her fist through Naruto's skull, and make his brains turn to mush. "Don't, Sakura. Naruto has a great deal of favor with the Emperor and the respect of the people in the Empire. To strike him would spark further tensions we can't afford," said Kakashi to his former student. "Of course he does. You saw the demon in Spring Country after the tournament was over, Kakashi-san. If given the chance, I'd rip his throat out, and mount his head on my wall back home," said Kiba angrily at the idea of the demon having his woman. "Behave yourself, Kiba. We don't know the position Kyubi has with the Emperor. If you provoke either one, we may not return to Konoha alive, and that will severely weaken the village," said Kurenai, knowing the Inuzuka was pissed off about Hinata not only being here, but now dead thanks to her cage bird seal being activated, and her last moments no doubt being with Naruto. "I'll try, but if this Emperor guy is some snooty, I'm better than you, kind of guy, then I say the hell with being nice, and just tell him to screw off," said Kiba, while his former sensei sighed at his brashness. "I doubt he is like that, Kiba. This man forged an empire out of the West through warfare and is no doubt keeping his skills sharp to avoid being removed from power. It is what leaders of an empire do after all," said Shino while having been told beforehand by a man named Walter that his bugs would not be tolerated flying around the imperial palace and would result in immediate punishment and the loss of one of the Abarame's limbs for each bug the butler claimed could be tracked back him if floating around. Shino didn't doubt it, so his bugs, out of their own form of self-preservation, and his own, had decided to stay within Aburame until they were out of the imperial palace. Which means none of you bakas are going to do anything stupid. Got it? Said Anko, as she saw the younger shinobi in the room nod, and the door near her opened to reveal a young man with long red hair wearing well-dressed clothing. Jiraiya of the Sanin and his associates, said the figure, who they recognized was the man named Kurama, and met outside the walls before they were escorted here where the man named Walter spoke to them. Yes, said Jiraiya, seeing the man turn fully to face him. The Emperor will see you all now. Please follow me, said Kurama, walking out into the hall towards the royal audience chamber with the group following close behind him. I have a question, said Kiba while ignoring the warning look from Kurenai to not do anything stupid. Depending on the question I will answer it, said Kurama without looking back. Why do you smell like a fox? Are you secretly Kyubi? Said Kiba while making the leaf shinobi around him tense and Kurama stop walking. No, I am not Kyubi. However, since there is no way around denying the truth, I am a fox demon, said Kurama, seeing Kiba baring his teeth at him. You don't look like one, said Sakura while Kurama just chuckled. You think all demons like dogs, foxes, and cats are incapable of having a human-based form? That is incorrect. While I myself do possess a fox-like form, it is nowhere near the size or strength Kyubi himself possesses, which I am sure the older members of your group remember, and witnessed years ago before he was sealed away. There are some demons in the Empire, who have 3 forms, which like myself, and Kyubi have the honor of possessing. What you see now is my human-looking form, while my secondary form is far more powerful, and shows some of my more fox-like traits that prove my heritage is indeed that of a demonic fox. The main form of demon animals like myself and Kyubi are the ones Konaha is already familiar with when we are using our full potential, said Kurama while making a hand motion for them to continue following him. So you have a strong affinity for fire like Kyubi does? Said Shino curiously, as he did not take Kurama to be the fire type, and didn't radiate the same hostile power Kyubi did. Though whether that was meant to be comforting or downright scary was unknown to the Aburame. No. I'm more attuned to nature itself. I can manipulate plants and trees using my powers to create beauty. Or death, said Kurama simply with a small chuckle that made the leaf shinobi behind him shiver slightly. So Kurama's power are similar to the Shodem Hokage's own, but more advanced given his demonic energy, and he's capable of using it as a weapon in a pinch, thought Kakashi while filing that away for later. And remembering to stay away from the plant life that looked unnatural. So what's the Emperor like? Said Anko, deciding to focus on the Emperor himself and get a feel for the guy that would no doubt decide whether or not they leave the Empire alive. You will find out soon enough, said Walter from behind the group of leaf shinobi and almost scarring them out of their clothes. Where the hell did you come from? Said Kiba while pointing a finger at Walter, who just smiled at the boy in an unnerving way, and the loyal butler quickly vanished before reappearing with the Inuzuka's finger in his hand. You should never ask such things in rude tone, young one. It's considered disrespectful, said Walter while staring into the Inuzuka's eyes, and Kiba could practically smell blood on the man's hands. This guy is a killer. He's seen death and no doubt delivered it upon others using those very hands when required, thought Kakashi, as he knew a taker of life when saw one, and this butler seemed to be a master in the field. Walter, we can't keep the Emperor waiting, said Kurama, seeing Walter look at him and nod before letting the Inuzuka's finger go. Of course. Let's continue, said Walter while Kurama continued with the leaf shinobi behind him following and Walter in the back to ensure no stragglers decided to stray from the set path. The group soon made their way to the designated doors that led to the royal audience chamber, which was guarded by samurai, and each guard had their hands at the ready to cut through any one of the guests right there should the order be given. With a nod from Kurama, the 2 by the door opened the heavy doors while the others kept a close eye on the Konaha shinobi, and leaving nothing to chance. When the 2 doors were fully opened did Kurama finally walk into the royal audience chamber with the leaf shinobi behind him quickly following, and Walter doing the same before signaling to the samurai to shut the doors. Jiraiya along with the others gasped at how elegant it looked, as designs of dragons and foxes decorated the room in an elegant tapestry that made anything in the east look pale by comparison. It didn't even hurt that there was fire. Yes, an actual line of fire along both sides of the large room, which rose nearly up to the ceiling, and a pond following the trail led to the man sitting behind a wall of flame. This time the emperor's face was not masked by a helmet or covering like they had seen in paintings or in person in Spring Country. Beside him was a woman, who was hard to make out at first, like the emperor himself because of the wall of fire, but as they got closer, a sense of dread filled the hearts and minds of the Konaha shinobi. The eyes that stared at them through the flame were piercing blue eyes, filled with cold fury, and it reminded the older shinobi of the group of one person that had been a hero to Konaha for many years. The woman next to him was wearing regal robes worthy of her station in being the future empress of the empire, as she looked at the leaf shinobi, and one Inuzuka with anger. A very rare thing to do given the woman's gentle nature, but considering everything that had happened to her, and to the one she cared about, it was long overdue. The only reason I allowed you an audience with me, is because I felt it was time some of you understood the severity of Konoha's stupidity, and the level of your own arrogance, said Naruto, his voice filled with anger, which matched his eyes, and the fire that spiked ever so slightly around him. Naruto, you are the emperor? Said Jiraiya, seeing those cold blue eyes glaring at him with such intensity it was like staring into his late student's own. Surprised? You shouldn't be. After Konoha's betrayal, I had an interesting conversation with Kyubi, and he suggested I go to the west beyond the wall. Considering how my life was shot to hell by the likes of that bitch of a Hokage and those in power before her to further gain what they wanted. I agreed, said Naruto, seeing Jiraiya's eyes widen. Quit playing around, Naruto. We all know you're really the Kyubi. We all saw you in Spring Country when the real emperor called out to you, said Kiba before the already intense fire around them grew with the flame licking the ceiling above them. Foolish Inuzuka, you know not what you speak of, so hold your tongue. I was in Spring Country. Of that, you are indeed correct about, but I was not there as the Kyubi, and you would do best to remember that before I have one of my subordinates make an example out of your hide, said Naruto, his anger directed now entirely on Kiba, and the Inuzuka was hesitant to say anything else while the flame around them continued to flux with the emperor's anger. If you're not the fox, then prove it, and have Kyubi reveal himself, said Sakura before she heard a cruel chuckle from behind a circular pillar with the design of a dragon rising up around it. You mean me, Haruno? It seems your arrogance has blinded you all from the simple fact we are not the same, as you can plainly see with your own eyes, said Kyubi, as he now walked towards the group, and the group took a step back away from him. If you're the Kyubi, then that means, said Sakura, as she turned from looking at the demon fox to Naruto, and then back again before staring at Naruto in horror. At last, you all finally understand, and the painful truth has been revealed, said Naruto with a cruel grin on his face aimed at her and then at the others. But, Mom said. She said Kyubi and Naruto were one and the same, said Kiba in shock at seeing his whole perception of reality he had been raised into believing was true become shattered in a single moment. You don't believe Naruto still? Kurama. Stab me, said Kyubi before seeing Kurama look to the emperor for permission, and when Naruto nodded did the other fox demon comply. Using his rose whip, Kurama pierced Kyubi's shoulder with it, a wound that the more powerful fox simply ignored when struck, and further proved he wasn't just some weak shadow clone of Naruto under a henge disguise to deceive them. When Kurama pulled his weapon out, he bowed apologetically to him, and then to the emperor himself before turning it back into a rose. As you can see, the proof, as they say, Kiba, is in the blood, and the truth that was never made known to everyone in the first place because of the scandal it would cause. You know what I mean, don't you? My godfather, said Naruto to Jiraiya, who looked guilty in a way a child did in being caught with his hand in a cookie jar, and lying despite the truth to the contrary. So you know, huh? Said Jiraiya while the fire spiked around him and Naruto's blue eyes narrowed dangerously. Of course he knows, fool. Who do you think told him? Who do you think told him the biggest secret ever kept from him? You know the one. It was kept from him even longer than my sealing into his body, said Kyubi, seeing Jiraiya's face go deathly pale. What secret? Said Kurenai, seeing Kakashi and Jiraiya flinch while Naruto's anger once more spiked at seeing the former react. A secret known to a select few. A select few, who were trusted to do their duty, and yet they chose to betray the man entrusting them with it, said Naruto angrily while Jiraiya and Kakashi looked down in shame. I don't suppose you care to tell us, said Anko while hoping he would, since she like most of them was in the dark about this hidden secret. The secret known to a select few is who my father is. Though considering the last name I had for most of my life, you would think the one muscle the leaf hasn't used in a while would work again, and figure it out, said Naruto with most of the group still didn't know what he was talking about. Your last name was Uzumaki. So what? Said Kiba before Kurenai smacked him on the back of his head. That was my mother's last name. If anyone growing up around my father's time here used their brains, they would understand there was only one Uzumaki in Konoha at the time before I was born, and they know who she married, said Naruto, seeing the older adults of the group stiffen and could practically feel the cold shiver that ran down their spinal columns. Uzumaki Kushina, said Kurenai, as she had met the woman a few times, and wondered how it was she missed the painful truth about who Naruto's mother was, with the man's father being equally painful. What's the significance of some woman with the same last name as him? Said Kiba while Anko smacked him on the back of head. Baka. Uzumaki Kushina was the wife of Namikaze Minato. Namikaze Minato was the Yondaime Hokage of the Leaf. Naruto is the son of the Yondaime Hokage, said Anko, seeing Naruto smile at her, but his blue eyes that were filled with rage, and would not leave him. Now you finally understand. Now you finally realize just how stupid, just how reckless the people of Konoha were for what they did, and the significance of just how deep the betrayal was to my heart, said Naruto while glaring at both Jiraiya and Kakashi, since he knew they would understand the double meaning behind his words. Naruto, we came here to talk to you. Peacefully. In a civil manner, said Jiraiya, as he saw Naruto narrow his eyes at him more, and had to look away before looking away yet again when his eyes locked onto Kyubi's crimson orbs. Civil? Do you take me for a fool, Jiraiya? That you are the only one with a spy network? I know why you've come here with your little band of Leaf Shinobi. You want Hinata-chan brought back to Konoha, said Naruto simply while Kiba growled slightly before Walter made a noise that told the Inuzuka to be silent. She should be buried in the leaf. It was her home. It still is her home, said Kurenai, as she saw Naruto look at her, and then surprisingly, he laughed. Bury her? Why? Hinata's not dead. Or has your vision become so clouded and narrowed so badly that you can't see who the woman is sitting right beside me? Said Naruto, as he raised his hand, and moved it for them to follow where he wanted them to look so they could see the Hyuga for themselves. Hinata, said Kurenai, as she could barely see past the fire, and thus had not seen her former student's face in the process. Give me back my future wife, said Kiba before a firm hand was put on his shoulder by Walter, and the butler squeezed hard while telling the Inuzuka's dog to know his place and not interfering. No, said Naruto simply while Kiba struggled between growling in anger and gritting his teeth in pain from Walter's grip. Naruto, there is an arranged marriage between Inuzuka Kiba and Hyuga Hinata to be scheduled for when the tournament in Spring Country was over. I don't know how well schooled you are in politics, but in the East, her father demands she return home and be married to Kiba immediately, said Jiraiya while not mentioning that Hiashi had already tried to have Hinata killed using the cage bird seal. That was not on her head. Oh crap. Funny Jiraiya. I didn't think Hiashi was the kind of man to marry off his presumed dead Hyuga daughter to Kiba. Unless, he thinks Kiba is into that sort of thing, said Naruto while Kiba went green in the face and wanted to puke like the other Konoha shinobi. We came here originally to return Hinata's dead body to the leaf, but since she is in fact alive, our mission has been altered to returning her home to Konoha to be married, and without delay, said Shino while Naruto focused on the Aburame. Let me guess. Logic demands I comply with this since I am of royal status now and thus comply with the rules of royalty. Both as an emperor and the son of a Hokage? Said Naruto seeing Shino nod. Correct, said Shino while Naruto just grinned dangerously at him. Tell me Shino. When was the last time I ever acted in a logical way? Said Naruto, as he leaned forward slightly, and looked right into the shades that hid the man's eyes. I do not know, said Shino admittedly with Naruto grinning even more. Damn right you don't. None of you do. Not surprisingly since you were all told to hate, scorn, and/or ignore me. So tell me again, why should I follow the rules of the East when I am in the West, and going to be married to this wonderful caring woman sitting by my side? said Naruto while the fire in the room lessened and Hinata blushed at his words. She's going home and marrying me. That's not negotiable, said Kiba before the fire and the heat from it shot up to dangerous levels. I think it is. You seem to forgetting, this is my empire, this is my home, and this is my house in which you have entered demanding something from me, said Naruto before he snapped his fingers and instantly the samurai outside, plus entirely new squad entered the room, and surrounded the group. Naruto, stop, please, said Sakura while hoping he would listen to her for old time's sake. I don't answer to you. I don't answer to any of you. Not to Konaha, not the councils, not the clan heads, and certainly not to the Hokage responsible for ordering my banishment from the Leaf Village. Don't worry though, as I'm not going to kill you in order to send my own personal response back to this, but rather send you back humbled, and filled with regret that will forever be considered an irremovable mark on your souls. Take all, but Jiraiya away to the dungeons, as I have some things we need to discuss, and I don't want any kind of distractions from the Konoha scum he brought with him, said Naruto seeing the guards restrain the Leaf Shinobi and escort them out of the room. Naruto, stop this, we're sorry. Please, said Sakura, but her voice was ignored by the Emperor, and his focus clearly on Jiraiya. Do you wish me to leave since this is personal matter between you two? Said Hinata, but Naruto shook his head no, and put a hand on hers to signify he wanted the woman to stay. No, this is important. As my future wife, you should be involved in my personal life and all that I do, said Naruto with a smile on his face, as he kissed her hand which made the Hyuga blush before they both turned to face Jiraiya, and their smiles left. So, what do you want to talk about? Said Jiraiya while seeing Kyubi, Kurama, and Walter were in the room in a triangle formation with the Sannin himself in the center of it. I wish to talk to you about my family estate. Specifically, everything in Konoha that's not nailed down, and that I inherited from my father. From the most simplest teacup to the house he lived in with my mother. I want to know everything, said Naruto in very dangerous tone, and Jiraiya knew that his godson was going to get what he wanted no matter what. Sure, why not? After all, it is yours, said Jiraiya letting out a sheepish laugh and saw Naruto was not amused. Not even in the slightest. That's right, it is mine, something you are going to inform Tsunade upon your return when we are done talking here and you enjoy some of my hospitality. The very kind of hospitality the Leaf showed me when I was growing up, said Naruto seeing Jiraiya now whimper in fear knowing this was going to hurt on so many levels before the blonde let him along with the others leave the empire. Dungeon area beneath the Imperial Palace. Not many people got sent to the dungeons of the Imperial Palace, as few wished to even cause unrest within the Western Elemental Empire, but there were still few that did, and when caught were sent there to face justice. When the Leaf Shinobi were brought to the dungeon area, they were instantly stripped of all weapons, and means to escape while being allowed to keep their clothes on in order to show the Empire didn't stoop that low. Each prisoner was put in a different cell, their chakra-suppressing cuffs placed on their wrists, and the shackles prevented any attempt of escape from this area impossible. Anko's curse seal was seen by one of the guards and was stopped from entering her cell before she felt a slip of paper with a seal on it be put on top. The special Junin felt an intense pain where the curse seal had been and had cried out from it while the others were in their cells. When it was over, Anko felt the guard shove her in, and shut the cell while not even caring if the special Junin tripped when entering. Anko, what did they do to you? Said Kurenai while hearing Anko move slightly and find that out herself. I don't know. They put something on. That, said Anko knowing Kurenai understood what she meant. Your curse seal? What did they do to it? Said Kakashi hearing the woman moan out in pain from touching it and trying to sit up more. I don't really know, but if I had to guess, I think they purged it from my body, said Anko, who was completely stunned that this had happened, and so were the others. Do you think it's permanent or just temporary? Said Kurenai while she heard Anko hiss in pain at touching where the mark was. Definitely permanent. I feel burned flesh where the curse seal is located, said Anko, as she could feel the pain from the mark no longer being there, and yet would prefer to have Jiraiya look at it later to ensure it was gone. Maybe they'll share the seal with us to use on Sasuke, said Kakashi hopefully knowing the Uchiha could use it. Considering how rude we were to the Emperor. Not a chance, said Kurenai while the sound of Kakashi letting out a hollow laugh filled the area. Naruto is the Emperor of the Western Elemental Empire. It figures. You put him in a situation or area that is impossible to fix, and what does he do? He fixes it. He's just like Minato-sensei, said Kakashi while leaning back against the wall and wondering how things got so twisted. He's also a lot like Kushina. So full of energy and life. You stand in her way, it didn't matter how strong you were. She'd find a way to knock your teeth out, and made sure people were there to see it, said Kurenai, as she remembered Kushina, and how hot-tempered the woman was when it came to women hitting on her husband. Many a female, both civilian and kunoichi alike, were sent to the hospital. Something to consider when down here among the filth. You've become just like the rest of your people in the Leaf Village, said a deep melodic-like voice belonging to someone of terrifying power. Who's there? Said Kiba while Akamaru whimpered in fear. Who indeed, little man, said the figure behind the voice, laughing while he materialized from the dungeon floor, wearing a red trench coat, hat, shades with orange lenses, black pants, shirt with a crimson vest, and long dark hair. You are not human, said Shino, with the figure having the biggest smile they had ever seen appearing on his face. The name is Alucard. That's all you need to know. The dungeons here are my domain. Never before have I had so many guests at one time sent to me by the Emperor. We are going to have great deal of fun before you are sent on your way, said Alucard before laughing a cruel and evil laugh that would put Orochimaru to shame. Royal audience chamber. Sometime later. Jiraiya was thrown across the room by the punch delivered to his body, skidding across the floor thanks to the hands of Kyubi, and his level of brutality in hurting the Sannin. Jiraiya had confessed everything to Naruto a long time ago, telling him every single thing the Emperor wanted to know, since not telling him seemed to be pointless, and after that happened Naruto asked Kyubi to beat the holy hell out of the Sannin for the both of them. Naruto-kun, I think he's had enough, said Hinata while putting a hand on his own. Kyubi, stop, said Naruto, which for Jiraiya was just in time since the demon fox was about to drop a demon strength enhanced foot down on the man's crotch, and cripple the man in the ways of perversion. You're sure? Said Kyubi, seeing Naruto nod. Hinata wishes it. Walter, send him down to the dungeon with the others. They are going to stay there for the next few days with him, said Naruto with an evil grin on his face. As you wish, my emperor, said Walter before dragging the beaten man away by his hair to further cause the man pain. Naruto, I'm sorry. I had no choice. Naruto, please. You have to believe me. Naruto, I am sorry. Naruto, said Jiraiya while calling out to his godson before the door shut behind him and left the remaining people in the room alone. I know you are sorry, Jiraiya, but the thing is, we all have our choices make in life, and you chose unwisely, said Naruto in a cold tone before closing his eyes and banishing the anger deep within his heart. He didn't want to be like this in front of Hinata. Kyubi, Kurama, could you leave us please? Naruto-kun needs to relax, said Hinata, as both demonic foxes bowed, and left the two lovers alone. I'm sorry you had to see that part of me. I don't like being a cruel person, but it had to be done, said Naruto while not looking at Hinata in shame of his own actions and felt her gentle hand on his face. They hurt you, Naruto. They betrayed you like my family betrayed me. It's only natural your heart aches at the sight of them and wishes to heal in its own way, said Hinata, as she put her face to his own, and felt him put an arm around her shoulder. You are what heals my heart, Hinata-chan, said Naruto in a whispered tone, and two held each other even tighter. Let's go somewhere to relax. I think you can stop being emperor for the rest of the day, said Hinata, as she took his hand, and the two rose before leaving via secret passage to the gardens where they could relax in their own private sanctuary. A few days later, the shinobi from Konaha looked, for the lack of a better word, an utter wreck. They had not slept much since their time in the dungeons, looking more like bums off the streets one found within the slums of society than shinobi, and the look in their eyes spoke of broken spirits. Each one went through nightmare upon nightmare at the hands of Alucard and his promising fledgling of a student, Sarah's Victoria, learning from the experience. The woman had blonde hair with blue eyes, which further hit home for them since Sarah's could pass for being Naruto's sister without whisker marks, and when angry turned into crimson ones like Naruto's did when using Kyubi's power. I trust returning to Konoha in your state won't be a problem, said Kyubi, as he had seen fit to drop them off at the wall, and knew it would be a long road back since Earth Country along with Iwa stood in the way of getting back to Konoha. We'll manage it, said Jiraiya, as he had his legs broken the day before by Kyubi, put them in casts, and was then given crutches to make it back home that way until Sakura could heal him. Kyubi had forbidden her from doing it until they got back to the leaf. Good to know. Oh, just one more thing before you leave, and it concerns that woman you call Hokage, said Kyubi before tossing Kakashi a scroll since Jiraiya was unable to do it and stay upright. What's this? Said Kakashi while trying some idea what was inside. Incentive for that bitch to comply with Naruto's demands and claims for what are his by birthright. The things Konaha will no doubt try to deny and or destroy before they ever hand them over to him. Which reminds me, Kakashi. Hand over that kunai, said Kyubi, seeing Kakashi stiffen slightly and look away. I don't know what you are talking about, said Kakashi before he felt Kyubi's chakra flare around him. Don't test me, Hitaki. You were given everything back to you earlier, but Alucard spoke to me of an unusual kunai in your possession, and when I asked him to describe it to me in detail, I knew what it was. Give it. Now, said Kyubi with eyes that left no room for arguing. But Minato-sensei gave it to me as a gift when I became Junin, said Kakashi with a sense of defiance, but the demon fox took a step forward, and claws out ready to tear the man's heart out if he was denied one more time. A gift that you are unworthy of after abandoning the man's son. I find you are unworthy of being the Yondaime's student. I find you are unworthy of even being alive, and the only reason you're still breathing is because your sensei's son wishes it. Though why he does, I don't know, since it will only require one of you to send a verbal message to Konaha, and the dead bodies we send back should more than reinforce things. However, I trust Naruto completely, and if he wishes to show mercy by letting you all return, then so be it, said Kyubi, knowing his former vessel had a motive to this madness and decided to go along with it. I understand, said Kakashi, as he handed the Hiraishin kunai that Minato gave him to Kyubi, and felt a sense of loss in doing so. Glad we understand one another. Now get out of here before I decide to do something violent, said Kyubi before pointing them in the direction Konaha would be after they traveled several hundred miles. With humble submissive bows, the Leaf Shinobi turned to face their side of the continent, and wondering if how they felt now would become worse after giving their report to the Hokage about their failure in this mission? What would the repercussions be? Would they face banishment too? If Naruto could be banished for succeeding, then what was the price to be paid for failing their village, and the Hokage? They could only hope the information they brought back would have enough value to prevent any such punishments from the Hokage. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.